South Africa's Netflix hit show, The Polygamist. Until next time, bye for now.
Well, bye for now, from bye for now to hello from here, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Information Radio for Friday. I'm Mercy Marcuso. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on CBC. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. And the rain's going to return to part of Manitoba. I noticed a couple of raindrops in Winnipeg this morning, but pretty minor. It will not be to southeastern Saskatchewan and through south central Manitoba, southwestern Manitoba rather. Today and tonight, 50 to 70 millimeters of rain. There's a yellow rainfall warning, extends from Riding Mountain to Verdon and the extending area. So we need it. In Winnipeg, today's high is going to be 24 degrees. Information Radio, your morning show is on until 8:37 a.m. Thanks for joining us this Friday. Let's say hello to the team. Corey Funk makes his triumphant return. Corey is the show director and also will be covering the commute on the program. I'll be covering weather for you, as well as Darren Marash, who's our producer of our YouTube stream. You can watch there. Hey, Darren. And Jenica Sewell, switching seats and behind the controls today. Good morning, Jenica. Jenica's our morning technician today. All right, Josh Crabb is here also, rounding out the week, filling in for Heather Wells. What are the headlines today, Josh?
Yeah, good morning, Marcy. A company that pays people for their plasma is suspending donations in Winnipeg and across the country. Griffel says it's pausing activities in light of what it calls unfounded attention focused on paid plasma. Childcare advocates say Manitoba is not moving fast enough when it comes to adding daycare spaces. The provincial and federal government say almost 1,100 new spaces have opened since 2025, but critics say daycare should be treated more like schools, opening new ones as demand for spaces grows. And Thursday evening, people at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights got to hear from a young but mighty First Nations activist. Autumn Peltier from Wikwamacong First Nation on Manitoulin Island spoke about respect for water and Indigenous sovereignty. Your next local CBC News is at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
Well, we're in a Friday mood, so let's talk about Legally Blind. Rainbow Stage, really busy last night. CBC's Sophia Peralta-Barone was there to find out what all the buzz is about for that summer show. So we'll bring you some of the fun sounds of that. In addition, in the first hour of the program, to serious matters, it has been 5 years since the Taliban seized power in Afghanistan. We'll get an update from a human rights worker about what is happening there. Also on international and national news, World Report is coming up here at 6 o'clock. So stay tuned for that. And local news all morning at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Today on Q.
Hannah Einbinder is one of the breakout stars of the hit HBO show Hacks.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was a shoes-off situation.
Well, it's shoe-dependent.
But in her new film, Hannah is leaving comedy behind to star in a bloody slasher thriller. She'll be here to talk about the new movie and the success of Hacks.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Is World Report. Good morning, I'm Natalia Goodwin. Nigel Farage has won back his seat in Britain's Parliament. The leader of the far-right Reform UK party took over 63% of the vote in Clacton. Farage triggered the by-election himself after resigning amid an ethics probe into undeclared gifts. Coming in second, with more than a quarter of the votes, a comedian known as Count Binface. The CBC's Julia Chapman reports.
Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency.
As the result was announced, the winner was nowhere to be seen. Nigel Farage stayed away, claiming he'd been warned of a plot to humiliate him. Farage was already the MP for this constituency. He stood down, triggering a by-election as he faced a growing scandal over his finances. An investigation was underway into his failure to declare a nearly $10 million gift from a cryptocurrency billionaire. Farage insists he did nothing wrong and argues the election outcome proves voters don't care.
So I asked the voters of Clacton to be my jury.
The Reform UK leader won comfortably with 63% of the vote, but all the other major parties had boycotted, calling the by-election a political stunt. Farage's only real challenger was a comedian dressed as a garbage can, known as Count Binface. He won nearly 27% of the vote.
If they choose not to stand, somebody has to stand up and be the opposition.
Reform UK is a far-right party that campaigns against immigration, climate action and high taxes. Across the country, it had been polling ahead of other parties until the scrutiny came over Farage's finances. The Clacton result is unlikely to make Farage's problems go away. Now that he is returning to Parliament, the investigation into his finances has already resumed. Julia Chapman, CBC News, London.
CBC News has learned that Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is scheduled to brief the federal government's advisory committee today. LeBlanc will provide an update on Canada-U.S. economic relations and how the negotiations are going. That's according to two sources with knowledge who did not want to be identified publicly. The committee serves as a forum where members can develop strategies on how Canada should approach its economic relationship with the U.S. Luigi Mangione could plead guilty as early as today. He is accused of murdering a healthcare CEO on a Manhattan sidewalk in 2021. Mangione faces both federal and state charges in the case. Today's hearing in New York addresses the federal count of stalking resulting in death. CBC's Chris Reyes joins us live from New York. Chris, what can we expect in court today?
So, Natalia, nothing is certain at this point. Several news outlets, including the New York Times and Reuters, are reporting that inside sources indicate that Mangione might plead guilty to those federal charges. The allegation is that Mangione crossed state lines, used the internet and other means with the intent to stalk and kill United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. We might also see supporters for Mangione at the courthouse, as we've seen in past appearances. So Mangione has become somewhat of a cult personality since his arrest. His supporters have celebrated this crime as an act of justice against the health insurance industry in this country. We could also hear from lawyers on both sides today over what a guilty plea charge would entail. So the death penalty was on the table when there were murder and weapons charges attached to the federal case. That's no longer on the table, but life in prison is still a possibility.
Okay, and Mangione is still facing serious state charges. So how could that case be affected?
That's right. So those charges include second-degree murder and weapons-related charges. They also carry a maximum sentence of life in prison. This could be a significant development in that case set to start next month in New York. While the federal and state charges are different, a guilty plea could give Mangione's defense an opening to argue double jeopardy. So in New York State, you can't be tried for the same offense twice. Meanwhile, Mangione is currently being detained in Brooklyn.
Thanks so much for this, Chris.
Thank you.
The CBC's Chris Reyes in New York. Colombia's new hard-right government is facing mounting criticism over its handling of Monday's powerful earthquake. Reports indicate international aid was turned away in the crucial hours following the disaster. Rescue workers on the ground now accuse the administration of letting politics shape the humanitarian response. CBC's Karen Pauls reports.
Jeremy Locke and his aerial recovery crew working around the clock in the rubble of a Cali apartment building.
You're praying and hoping so much that you get a response that oftentimes your ears will start playing tricks on you. And
looking for survivors, but finding none.
Unfortunately, a lot of the victims were elderly or younger children.
The disaster has become an early test for President Abelardo de la Espriella, with accusations the government rejected early offers of help from international rescue organizations for ideological reasons. Craig Demelon is a search and rescue volunteer in Pereira.
There's basically nothing here. I haven't seen anyone really giving stuff besides the locals.
Officials confirmed rescue teams from only 4 countries, Ecuador, El Salvador, the United States, and Israel, were initially allowed in after the 7.4 magnitude quake that killed hundreds and left many missing. Colombia's foreign minister, Omar Bula, denies politics played a role. We work with countries without any ideological or political consideration, he says, and we accept and dearly appreciate their help.
De manera encarecida.
About 60 members of an independent Mexican rescue team, the Aztec Moles, are now in Cali, arriving directly from Venezuela to assist. One of them saying, "I just spoke to the authorities and told them to stop being stupid, stop being colorblind, stop the stupidity of politics, and that we all work together." But it may be too late. Many communities are now turning from search and rescue to recovery. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Only 30% of Canadians have taken action to respond to the climate risks their households face. That's according to a progress report released this week by the federal government, which launched the National Adaptation Strategy 3 years ago. It missed its target of getting 50% of households to take action by 2025. Ryan Ness, Director of Adaptation at the Canadian Climate Institute, says he is encouraged by some progress, but warns the report lacks clarity on real-world impact.
The National Adaptation Strategy is a useful foundation for understanding what Canada can do to adapt to the effects of climate change, but on its own, it hasn't been enough to drive action and to drive results.
Ness says Canada is playing catch-up on climate adaptation. He says governments need to track real metrics, like how many homes face fire or flood risks and how many are now protected. And finally, for a century, Royal Canadian Legion halls have been known as spaces for veterans, but branches around the country are opening their doors to younger members, even those without military backgrounds. As part of a drive to secure their future, new members can now join for free. CBC's Emma Godmere explains.
Let your shoulders relax.
Stop by the Billy Bishop Legion in Vancouver on any given night, and you might be surprised by what you find.
Tilt your head to the right.
Bright yoga mats rolled out on old floorboards, surrounded by military mementos. It's all part of the charm that keeps 37-year-old Hannah coming back.
It's just a wonderful place to be. It's very warm.
For the past century, Legions have largely been hubs for veteran support and Remembrance Day ceremonies, community suppers, and celebrations of life. That's still the case, says Najma Bond, national spokesperson for the Royal Canadian Legion, but branches are needing to expand.
This is really like a transition time for the Legion where what we traditionally do will be maintained, but also we look forward to seeing more growth and more new things and ways to adapt to the world around us.
10 years ago, we only had 29 members. Another 2 or 3 months, we wouldn't be alive, but then we evolved.
Dennis Mills of Ontario's Bala Legion says becoming an accessible destination for people of all ages was the key.
Now we are a place where we have affordable dinners on Friday night, we have concerts, and we've opened the doors to everyone.
The Bala Legion even hopes to soon provide affordable housing units and a medical center. For now, the pitch to new members is straightforward.
We need you if we're going to keep this service to the community healthy and alive and vibrant.
Emma Godmere, CBC News, Ottawa.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Natalia Goodwin.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Friday. Thanks for choosing us to start your day with here on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Welcome to the August 14th show. This is Information Radio on 89.3. This hour on the show, what a wild season for the Sea Bears. We're going to find out more about what's happening this weekend. So we're going to get a tee up. We're also going to hear from the organization. Of course, it's a one-game take-all after the situation in the series in Brampton and the condensation on the court issues on Wednesday night. So stay tuned. We're going to hear from the person from the Sea Bears coming up. Also this hour on the show, it has been 5 years since the Taliban seized power in Afghanistan. The Taliban since has systemically banned women and girls from education and most activities in public. We will hear from a human rights worker who has been covering the situation and knows it well. And then coming up at 10 to 7 this morning, the federal government earlier this week announcing $34 million for more than 100 climate projects in Canada. We're going to dig into where that money might go and what it might be spent on. So stay tuned. That's all still ahead in the first hour of the show. Josh Crabb is here with headlines.
Good morning. Donors at the Griffles Clinic on Taylor Avenue Thursday afternoon said it was business as usual. This comes as the Spanish company says it's pausing plasma collections at all of its Canadian locations, blaming what it calls unfounded attention on paid plasma donations. Two Southwest Manitoba communities say they've had enough of treacherous highway driving due to huge holes and missing chunks of pavement. I'll tell you what's being done to fix up Highway 41 west of Brandon in the Aram of Ellis Archie. And the Canadian Museum for Human Rights hosted a powerful young voice for Indigenous rights and environmental justice. Autumn Peltier spoke at the museum Thursday evening about respect for water and Indigenous sovereignty. Your next local CBC News is at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Well, we need some water, and we're going to get it. Light rain just falling in Winnipeg right now in parts of the city, very light, 17 degrees. Light rain falling in Brandon, it's 15 degrees. You're going to get a lot more to the west, and in Thompson, mainly clear in 5. Let's have a look at your forecast right now. So Winnipeg, cloudy today, 30% chance showers will continue, as you can see on the map there, where the different hotspots are. All those brightly colored areas to the west of Manitoba mean rain, like a lot of rain. So where it's green, lighter, red, and yellow, if you're watching on YouTube, you're in the heavy areas. So Winnipeg, outside of that area with a 30% chance of showers, a high of 24 degrees today. Let's go over to Brandon. Light rain, 15 right now. You're expecting 5 to 10 millimeters of rain, a high of 20 today, and then more rain tonight, 5 to 10 millimeters more. In Thompson, mainly clear, 5 degrees right now. Mainly sunny up north. It's the place to be this weekend if you want sun and clear skies, and 22 degrees for Thompson today is what's expected. So the warning area here is a yellow rainfall warning. It's southeastern Saskatchewan and Westman. Today into tonight, 50 to 70 millimeters of rain. We're talking Riding Mountain south down to Verdun. And then there's also an additional special weather statement just warning that the area could be enlarged a little bit. So areas around Dauphin and Russell and even to Winnipeg Osis through there, expecting 20 to 50 millimeters of rain. So a little bit less than the 50 to 70, but that whole area is going to be wet. And we really do need it. So it will be, I think, welcome. Now in Westman, they've had much more rain than here in central Manitoba. So we'll see whether or not, what happens in that area. And hopefully it won't be runoff. Hopefully it'll be able to be absorbed into the ground. Okay, Corey Funk has made his triumphant return. He's been hosting Up to Speed all week. Hi.
Hello. Yes, I'm no major issues out there right now, but I do want to look into my magical traffic crystal ball and let people know that starting tomorrow at 6 a.m., it's going to be not fun to drive through the intersection of St. Anne's and Abinogi-Meekina. There's paving work going on there, says the city. So starting at 6 a.m. tomorrow until 6 p.m. on Sunday, you're actually not going to drive through, keep going straight on St. Anne's Road at Abinogi-Meekina. You're going to be forced to turn right, whether you're going northbound or southbound. But if you're on Abinogi-Meekina, you are going to be able to go through, but it's just down to one lane. So essentially the city's saying avoid that intersection if you can. It's going to be very slow going for the weekend, right from Saturday until the end of the day, Sunday. So just avoid that intersection if you can. That's St. Anne's Road and Abinogi-Meekina. Other than that, though, pretty clear right now. If you see anything else going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
I'm just distracted by what is one of my favorite colors, but just this pink sky out there. It's beautiful this morning. We get gorgeous skies in here across the prairies in the fall. Amazing. Well, next on the show, to start this half hour, I should say, as you've been hearing in the news this week, the CEBL finals between the Winnipeg Sea Bears and the Brampton Honey Badgers have just become a lot shorter. So the first game of the planned 3-game final series was canceled partway through due to condensation on the court in Brampton. And what would have been a possible third game in that series was axed because now this is one game, a one-game final at the Canada Life Centre in Winnipeg tomorrow afternoon. Now, as I mentioned, Corey's been guest hosting Up to Speed, and you've been following this, right? What a season.
What a season. It's been successful, but also dramatic as well, to say the least, for the Sea Bears. And not just on the court. So yesterday we got an update in the case involving the Sea Bears star Teddy Allen, who is out right now due to injury after an incident here in Winnipeg. Winnipeg police say 3 security guards from a downtown Winnipeg bar are accused in the assault of the pro basketballer on August 3rd. 3 people face charges of assault causing bodily harm. And Rianne Marcoux is the president of the Winnipeg Sea Bears. And I spoke with her yesterday on Up to Speed. I just want to know what went through your mind last night when the game was officially canceled. Were you there in Brampton or are you here in Winnipeg?
I was there, yeah. A bit of a surprise, not what we were expecting. Definitely disappointing. This was going to be the first best of 3 finals for the CBL. We were quite excited for that, but we have a packed building coming up here on Saturday, so we're very excited to pivot and host at home here.
I think a lot of fans, when they heard that was a thing, I don't think people even knew that that was a possibility. What causes condensation on the court? What caused this particular condensation on the court?
Yeah, so the ice for the rink just got put in apparently this week at the CAA Center in Brampton. And so typically what happens is the court gets put in on top of the ice. And because of the weather, it is quite stormy and quite humid, there was, I guess, some melting and some condensation. And so it was unsafe for players and the referees to continue on. And so the game was unfortunately canceled.
Not just something you could just wipe off either. I guess that condensation just keeps coming, I guess, eh?
Yeah, when you've got a whole sheet of ice underneath, I think it's it's an ongoing problem.
How hard of a call was it to make? I don't know if you were part of that decision, but can you just give us an idea of what all went into making that decision to call it? Because I imagine that must be quite stressful as the game's going on.
Yeah, the call was made by the CBL because obviously player safety is paramount. So when there's slipping in an unsafe surface, there's no question the game unfortunately had to be canceled. The decision to kind of move into a one and done kind of single elimination game here. It is the format that the CBL has had up to date. So it's not unheard of. This is definitely what's happened in the past. It's unfortunate, but just due to the condensed schedule here and the fact that we need to kind of get everything in by this weekend, there weren't very many options. So that's where we landed. Yeah.
And what have you been hearing from fans who were at that game? I know there were some Winnipeggers who traveled there for the game. Did they get refunds?
They did, yeah. So the Brampton Honey Badgers processed refunds last night for everybody that was in attendance. It's obviously disappointing, but I think our fans were in good spirit. We had a pretty big showing out last night, actually, of Sea Bears fans. So it was really nice to see, and I think they're coming back home excited for Saturday.
So now it is down to just one game. What do you think about this new format?
The single game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we've been used to up until now, and so it's not completely out of the norm. It just means that there will be no game on Sunday, and so we've already processed refunds for those that had purchased their tickets should there have been a Sunday game, and season ticket members have a credit on their account and have the option of getting the refund there as well. So it just means that we can pack more people into our building on Saturday.
And how are ticket sales going? Because you opened that upper bowl.
We did, yeah.
I imagine you've been monitoring that. I imagine.
Yeah. So we are closing in on 9,500 here. So we're hoping to hopefully break the CBL attendance record. If we can crack 12, we'll see what we get.
Well, what is the record? 12,000 you said?
12,000, yeah.
Okay, wow. So on your way. What about the player themselves? What have you heard from them since the game yesterday, and how are they adjusting to this sudden change?
Yeah, I think the players were all on the same page of wanting to have safety kind of play the paramount role there. So that was really important. The minute they saw how slippery the court was, it was an easy decision. So I think being able to come home is an advantage for them. I mean, the home court advantage, especially with our crowd, it definitely makes a difference. I think they're just excited to come home and play in front of our fans.
And there was some news that came out today regarding Teddy Allen's case. Police announced today that 3 security staff at a downtown Winnipeg nightclub have been charged with assault following Teddy Allen's alleged assault. Allen has released a statement through the team, as you're well aware. It says, just for listeners' sake, says, quote, "The assault on me should never have happened, nor should it happen to anyone for any reason. The thing about my life is that when I've been knocked down, I get back up, which is exactly what I'm going to do now," unquote. So I just want to get your reaction to the arrests of those 3 security staff.
Yeah, we're really thankful for the Winnipeg Police Service and how seriously they took the investigation, and obviously it's now in front of the courts. So I think we're happy with where that landed. But I mean, first and foremost, the most important part is to have Teddy healthy, and so he's out of the hospital, he's home now, he's recovering, and that's really our big focus. So we're thankful for that.
Any other updates you can give us on just how Teddy's doing?
He's in very good spirits. He's been watching all the games. He's been FaceTiming with his teammates after the wins. So I think he'd really like to be here. But he's focusing on his recovery and cheering on from afar.
I'm sure you're probably just focused on the weekend, but I'm wondering, are you hoping to have Alan back on the team next year?
That will be up to Coach Rainbow. I think that's a next year conversation. Right now, we're just really focused on making sure that he makes a full recovery.
And I mean, when you just kind of imagine we're at the tail end of a very, I think it's fair to say, dramatic season for a number of reasons. Of course, in Teddy's absence, the team really did step up quite a bit. You were down 3 starters at one point, and yet here you are in the championships. What's it been like for you just seeing the team step up this season despite all these setbacks?
Yeah, it's been really inspiring. It's a really special group, and the way they've rallied and played for each other, it's been really inspiring to see. I think our staff is also very motivated to put on the best show for this team, and kind of vice versa. And they draw quite a bit of energy from our hometown crowd. So I think that's been it's been kind of a magical season from that standpoint, and we're hoping to put a bow on it on Saturday.
And any thoughts on how you would celebrate so far if the team wins, like an event maybe that you would have? Any thoughts on that?
I think that'll be a Saturday conversation. We just need to kind of get through the game and get that win, and then we'll plan further from there.
So that was CBears President Rayon Marcoux in conversation with CBC guest host Corey Funk. Corey's, of course, back on morning, but he's been hosting Up to Speed on CBC this week. The CBears and the Honey Badgers will play for it all tomorrow at Canada Life Centre in Winnipeg. That game is in the afternoon at 2:30. And for more, you can always visit CBears for their schedule and more stories at cbears.ca.
How do you listen to your favorite Manitoba shows when you're on the move? Get your daily dose of information radio, Radio Noon, and Up to Speed, live and on demand. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. It's the easiest way to keep our province at your fingertips. Download the CBC News app today.
Well, as I've been mentioning this half hour, it has been now 5 years since the Taliban seized power in Afghanistan. Taliban fighters entered the capital, Kabul, on August 15th, 2021, following the U.S. withdrawal of troops from the country. And since then, women and girls have been systematically excluded from most public activities. Now, they are not allowed to go to school. Women and girls must also be accompanied by a man to go shopping or see the doctor. Human rights advocates are urging Western countries like Canada, which were once involved in Afghanistan, not to look away. Natasha Arnpriester is a senior legal counsel of the Open Society Justice Initiative. She's developing a human rights case against the Taliban for International Court of Justice. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you tell us more about the crisis in physical and mental health going on among Afghan women and girls right now?
Yeah, thank you for having me and highlighting this, especially right now. The crisis is quite dire, very very interconnected here, and difficult to separate the health crisis from the women's rights crisis. As you mentioned, there's this extraordinary mental health crisis. There was a recent study done by the United Nations that found 7 in 10 Afghan women are describing their mental health as very bad. We see this resulting from isolation. As you mentioned, women can't leave the house without a male escorting them, a fear, this loss of hope for a future that all have had very profound psychological consequences. And then we have the physical health crisis, which Afghanistan already had one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the world. And the Taliban's restrictions have made that worse, and it's really compounding. So women's access to healthcare is limited, as you mentioned, by movement. They can't go see a doctor or a nurse without a male escorting them, and many don't have a male to escort them. Same with the ban on education. Women's inability to go to school past grade 6, they're then unable to access a medical education, and it's really cutting off the pipeline of any future female health professionals in the country. And so when you take a girl out of school at 12, you're really removing some of the strongest protections she has against early or forced marriage. And what we're seeing now is deeply disturbing reporting coming from inside Afghanistan. Underage girls giving birth, some are on their third or fourth pregnancy and suffering very serious pregnancy complications from ectopic pregnancies and miscarriages, and in some cases death. So really, we're seeing this massive crisis on both fronts, and the bans on education are all interconnected.
I'm not sure if this is your quote or if it's another advocate, but some are calling this the world's most severe women's rights crisis. What are the numbers in terms of the decrees targeting the women there, and how many women and girls are affected?
Yeah, it's actually a quote from the United Nations, and I think it's sadly spot on. So far there's differing numbers, but right now what the UN is reporting is there's been approximately 100 decrees that the Taliban have issued affecting the rights of women and girls. What your listeners are probably most familiar with are the bans on girls' education, but we see it across the whole swath of women's rights, the ability to participate in society and make decisions about their future. And I think one thing that's really important to dispel is this idea that Afghanistan's always been like this. Like it hasn't. Before the Taliban returned to power, women had rights under the Constitution. We had an entire generation of women and girls exercising those rights, learning to become doctors and lawyers, and they were in media and government. We had female ministers and parliamentarians and judges, and today we have none of that. So all of these restrictions are quite expansive and covering all areas of the life. And as you mentioned, we are at the world's most severe women's rights crisis now.
And so what is Canada doing to help?
Yeah, so Canada, on many fronts, Canada has been providing millions of dollars in humanitarian assistance, including this year, supporting some programs for remote education for women and girls. They've resettled more than 60,000 Afghan refugees since the takeover, and even domestically, they've amended their criminal code so that Canadian aid organizations can operate in Afghanistan to provide different humanitarian assistance without being exposed to criminal liability, as Taliban is a listed terrorist entity in Canada. And something my organization has been working on together with Afghan partners is a potential legal case before the International Court of Justice. And 2 years ago, Canada stated that it is interested to pursue this line of accountability. And I'm hoping it remains true to that commitment.
Does the Taliban attempt to, what do they say about the rationale? Do they attempt to offer rationale for all these edicts and about how long they'll be in place?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the Taliban, they argue that these policies reflect this distorted interpretation they have of Islamic law and Afghan culture. And as I mentioned, it wasn't this way before they came into power, so it would definitely push against the Afghan culture arguments. But they continue to say that these measures are temporary. They say we're doing this to protect women until our Taliban fighters know how to interact with them and make it more about protection. But as we're seeing, 5 years on, girls still can't go to school, and it's looking really like these are more permanent restrictions. And if anything, the restrictions have just become worse and worse and worse. So wishing they were temporary, but unfortunately, 5 years on, there's really no discernible timeline that these are going to be lifted.
Thank you for your time this morning, Natasha, and telling us more about the situation. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
That's Natasha Arnpriester. She's a senior legal counsel of the Open Society Justice Initiative. So as I mentioned, she is developing a case against the Taliban for the International Court of Justice. We reached her this morning in New York City. Well, in our city of Winnipeg today, it is 17 degrees. We see there's some light rain in parts of the city this morning, and bring an umbrella, and you're going to possibly need it later for yourself. If you need to update us on anything happening on your morning commute, you can call 788-3093. And your business news follows your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Josh Kreb in Winnipeg at 6:30. It's 17 and raining lightly downtown, partly cloudy, and 12 in Dauphin, mainly clear, and 3 in Thompson. A company that pays people for their plasma is suspending donations in Winnipeg and across the country. Grifols says it's pausing activities in light of what it calls unfounded attention focused on paid plasma. This after 2 people died within the past year in Winnipeg after donating plasma at clinics run by Grifols Health Canada has said neither was linked to the donation process, but it has also documented issues with some of the company's procedures. Noah Schulz is the director of the Manitoba Health Coalition.
It's not just media attention with no evidence, no basis. You're all not making these things up. The Health Canada inspection reports are there. We know that there are serious problems at Grifols.
Schulz says he's encouraged by the news Grifols is temporarily suspending plasma collection, but he would prefer to see for-profit plasma companies banned altogether. A statement from the Office of the Federal Minister of Health says it will work with Canadian Blood Services and others to make sure blood and plasma needs are met. Donors, meantime, at the Grifols Clinic on Taylor Avenue Thursday afternoon said it was business as usual. People leaving told CBC there was no indication donations were about to be suspended. Matthew McMillan says he's been visiting twice a week for more than a year. Despite what he's heard in the news in recent months, he hasn't had safety concerns since he started going to Grifols. He says the money helps with expenses, but it won't be a big hardship if he has to go without it.
It would kind of hurt. I mean, you get used to that $400, $500, but I'll adjust if need be.
Grifols says during the pause, it'll be working with the government and Canadian Blood Services in the hopes of resuming operations as soon as it's practicable. CBC News has learned Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is scheduled to brief the federal government's Economic Advisory Committee today. LeBlanc will provide an update on how CUSMA negotiations are going. This is according to two sources with knowledge who did not want to be identified publicly. The committee serves as a forum where members can develop strategies on how Canada should approach its economic relationship with the U.S. More national and international news coming up in World Report at 7. Childcare advocates say Manitoba is not moving fast enough when it comes to adding daycare spaces. The provincial and federal governments say almost 1,100 new spaces have opened in Manitoba since 2025. Both levels of government have given capital funding to build new centres and expand existing ones. Molly McCracken chairs the Childcare Coalition of Manitoba.
We really need to keep the pedal to the metal in terms of childcare space creation. And one of the main barriers to that is that Manitoba has this passive application-based approach whereby centres have to put together a capital expansion plan. They have to fundraise 40% of the capital cost of building childcare. We don't ask families to fundraise to build schools.
McCracken says the province should use a model similar to what it does with schools, identifying areas that need childcare and proactively taking steps to create more spaces there. Two southwest Manitoba communities say they've had enough of treacherous highway driving due to huge holes and missing chunks of pavement. Highway 41 is west of Brandon in the RM of Ellis-Archie. It connects McCully, St. Lazare, and Binscarth. Maintenance crews have been doing patchwork repairs, but Reeve Barry Lowe says he wants the province to fix it once and for all.
They need to patch sections of it or something as they go. So put it over a 5-year plan or something and do 10 miles or 5 miles a year or something. That would be ideal. It's terribly dangerous.
Transportation Minister Lisa Naylor says highway maintenance crews are fixing unsafe areas and doing regular repairs along the roadway. And finally, the Canadian Museum for Human Rights hosted a powerful young voice for Indigenous rights and environmental justice. Autumn Peltier is Anishinaabe from Wikwamagong First Nation in Manitoulin Island. She spoke at the museum Thursday evening about respect for water and Indigenous sovereignty. Peltier is a water warrior who has been advocating for water rights since she was 8 years old. Now 21, she spoke to the crowd about how environmental injustices like restricted access to clean drinking water impacts the human rights and health of First Nations people.
I travel to many Northern First Nations communities, and the reality is extremely sad. And these children, some of them have never experienced what it's like to drink clean water from their tap. They've never experienced what it's like to go take a shower. That's not normal, and that's not okay.
Peltier says clean water is a basic human right that no one should have to fight for. That is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 7:30.
All right, thanks a lot, Josh.
You're welcome.
Let's get into this regional forecast now. Abby's off today, so you're stuck with me. It's 6:35 a.m., and let's start in Winnipeg, where we have some light rain in the city falling. It was just spitting in the downtown. It's pretty cloudy in pockets. It will be mainly cloudy today in Winnipeg, 30% chance of showers and a high of 24. Tonight, cloudy, periods of rain beginning after midnight, and then tomorrow, periods of rain in Winnipeg again. They'll end in the afternoon. So it's going to be wet at the various events, whether you're going to the basketball game or over to the Burt Block party. A high of 21 tomorrow in Winnipeg. And finally on Sunday, it does end clear for the weekend here in Winnipeg, sunny and a high of 24. So right now, 17, winds are calm. In Brandon, light rain, 15 degrees right now, winds are northeast at 12. For you, periods of rain today and a lot heavier than Winnipeg, 5 to 10 millimeters of rain, a high of 20. Tonight, 5 to 10 millimeters more of rain in Brandon. It's going to be wet. You need it. A low of 15 degrees. Tomorrow, a 60% chance of showers in Brandon. High of 20 as well, once again. And then clearing out the weekend for Sunday. If you have plans, Sunday's a better day to be outside. 23 degrees and clear in Brandon on Sunday. Right now, light rain 15. Up north, clear and nice. Thompson's clear already. It's 5 degrees. Mainly sunny for the day, a high 22. In that city tonight, low 9. And then tomorrow, sun and cloud, a high of 20. So similar temperatures to southern Manitoba. But a clear weekend right through. Sunday, sunshine and a high of 23. Almost right through. On Sunday night, you could see a titch of rain in Thompson. Let's briefly go over the pockets where there's warnings. A yellow rainfall warning for southeastern Saskatchewan and Westman. We're talking today and tonight through the area, as you heard in Brandon, 50 to 70 millimeters of rain. This is from Riding Mountain National Park to the north, right down south through Verdun. And then there's an additional special weather statement for some of the surrounding areas. We're talking about Dauphin, Russell, Winnipeg, Osis. Now, those areas also expecting rain. Little bit lower amount, 20 to 50 millimeters is what's expected. So umbrellas, making plans, but we don't see sort of any of that, 35 degrees and then severe thunderstorms. So hopefully this will just be a good summer rain. Corey Funk is in at 6:37 to tell us about the commute.
Yes, nothing going on right now, but looking ahead, if you are planning to go through St. Anne's Road and Abroad-Jamaica, that intersection, you might want to avoid that this weekend. Starting tomorrow, 6 a.m., paving work is starting right at that intersection up until Sunday at 6 p.m., so all weekend. Essentially, if you're going down St. Anne's Road, whether north or southbound, you're going to be forced to turn right onto Abinogi-Meekna. If you're going down Abinogi-Meekna, westbound or eastbound, it's just down to one lane. So essentially, it could be very slow going, very disruptive at that intersection, St. Anne's Road and Abinogi-Meekna this weekend from 6 a.m. Saturday to 6 p.m. Sunday. Other than that, though, if you do see anything else going on, if you're walking your bike and you're driving, you want to give me an update, let me know what you're seeing out there. I would love to hear from you. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey Funk.
Thank you.
And Phil Demont is now on the airwaves with us with our business news. Hi, Phil.
I just realized I never usually use an umbrella anymore in the rain. I haven't for years. Either because I keep hitting people next to me in the sidewalk because I'm kind of short and I keep hitting with the umbrella, or else it just kind of pops the other way and I look like Mary Poppins.
You sound tall. Are you kind of short?
Well, 5'7", so if I hold it, yeah.
Oh, I never knew that. I mean, I've seen you before, but I just have never really put that together. I'm 5'6", so we could hang out together and be under one umbrella, and then we'd be fine.
Great.
It'll work out. You're here to talk business. Let's talk U.S. gasoline prices. They hit an all-time high for August this week, but world prices are way down from April. So why aren't pump prices dropping as quickly there?
Yeah, and that's why I'm picking on it, because people often ask that question. Oil prices come down, and I'm still paying what I'm paying at the gas pump. The cost of gasoline in the U.S. recently hit an all-time high record for August, $4.07. So if you go back to April 7th, just because I tracked it, that was the peak time for a price of a barrel of oil in North America. But at the time, the gas at the pump was $4.17. So you go to $4.07, it's a 7-cent difference. So it's down about 2%. Cost for oil at the same time, down almost 30%. Track's roughly the same in Canada. Gasoline prices here between April 7th and now, down about 9%. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is that the price of oil is actually only about 50% of the price you pay at the pump, because you got to refine the oil, you got to transport it to the gas station, and the gas station has to run, make a profit, etc. So there's that issue. Oil gets refined, and the problem is right now there's a shortage of refining capacity in North America. It's burning at 100%. So there's no ability to pump out more oil. So the oil going to the refinery tends to attract a higher price, even if the world price is lower. Also, you've got the refined product has to get to the gas station, so the cost of shipping by truck up about 30% versus a year ago. Then you get the gas station itself. So operators tend to hike pump prices quickly when the cost of a crude rises because they want to keep their profit margins intact. Makes sense. The sticker price, though, for gas doesn't come down to earth when oil prices start dropping. One reason, station operators kind of know people don't shop around for the cheapest gas price. They'll tend to go to their regular regardless of the price. I kind of track this on a compact vehicle. Looking at these numbers, you'd save about $10 a tank if you shopped around. In Toronto, I used to fill up my car maybe twice a month. So that's $20 of savings. I drive by this gas station that always had a lineup. And I remember looking one time thinking, I would spend half an hour in that lineup to save $10. I'd have to do it twice. And I just got other things to do. So I just rather pay the $20. So operators kind of know there's a lot of people like me out there, basically lazy, and they just keep prices high as a result.
They should come to Winnipeg. We have a reputation for being cheap. Maybe it's not logical, but people will be in that line to save the money. And I think. Let's talk about Donald Trump. The threatened tariffs on Canadian trade are getting pushback now from perhaps an unusual source, the American auto sector. So what have they said?
Yeah, U.S. car makers are still trying to deal with last year's tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum and our cars heading south. Now they're facing a possible new round of tariffs August 19th. That's when they'll come into effect, the new Trump tariffs, if Washington and Ottawa can't reach a trade deal. So American car makers pushing back on these threatened tariffs. Right now, they face a 25% tariff on finished vehicles from Canada and Mexico, the portion of the car that isn't covered by that existing free trade agreement. But also means, though, if they suppose they import a car from Canada just straight up, and it's not got any of the American content in it, that kind of stuff, it's hit by a 25% tariff. Asian car makers, they only face a 15% tariff because they did a different deal. So basically, the American car makers are saying, look, we actually face a 10% tariff penalty compared to Asian, and that's our main competitors, because we have an integrated North American industry. Also, there's tariffs, the 25% tariffs, etc., on Canadian steel and aluminum going to the U.S. All told, the initial round of tariffs cost the industry as much as $3.5 billion. The new tariffs could cost another $2 billion. Washington pursuing the new tariffs as a way of stimulating more domestic vehicle production hasn't worked so far. American production of light cars and trucks down 3% for the first half of this year versus the same period last year. So at least in the short term, tariffs are just money out of people's pockets.
And before you go this morning, why does it matter if robots can clean toilets?
I know. It's about whether a humanoid robot can actually do something useful. China's Unitree is getting really good at making robots that kind of look like people. You know, they kind of walk like them and they're the same size. They can do cool party tricks like hit you with a kung fu kick, or maybe if they fall down, they get back up again. Some robots can do backflips. I've seen that. The question is whether they can replace people on an assembly line or maybe even clean your house like Rosie, the robot from the Jetsons. I looked that one up. I forgot about that robot. Numbers are impressive. Analysts think the market could hit 4 million shipments of humanoid robots annually by 2035. China, already a leader, will continue to be a leader. Prices are down 90% from 2020, but it's still $58,000 for these kind of robots. And finding something useful is tricky. Unitree is a leading Chinese robot company, but they get a big chunk of their revenue not from the actual sale of robots, but from touring executives around their cool facilities. I gather they're kind of cool, but it's not exactly a growth model the industry supporters had in mind.
Interesting. All right. Thanks a lot, Phil. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Marcy.
That's Phil DeMont from our business desk. 6:44 a.m. It's Friday morning, everyone. Heading into another August weekend. Lots of great stuff going on around Manitoba. Music festivals and sports and all kinds of things. Light rain right now, 17 degrees on Friday as we get ready to start our day. Well, next on the show, we've previously done stories about law enforcement officials here in Manitoba. And specifically, I recall one about Winnipeg Police years ago. It was really interesting. They were talking about where weapons are used. How weapons are used and where they're stored. So most police officers would carry things around their belts. And they said it depends where your gun might be versus your taser, depending on what you're going to grab for first. But imagine if you didn't even have to reach for a weapon in the first place because your gloves were the weapon. There's this new piece of gear for U.S. immigration enforcement, ICE agents, and it's generating a lot of controversy, as you can imagine. So ICE agents might soon get these high-tech gloves that can deliver electric shocks to people. They work much like a taser, but instead the shock is given when the wearer of the glove places their hands on someone. So the plan is to spend between $10 and $20 million to purchase these gloves, and it comes as Immigration Enforcement Agency in the States faces scrutiny over what critics call, quote, aggressive and dangerous tactics, end quote. And amid pressure from the Trump administration to make around 2,000 arrests every day. To delve deeper into the story, CBC spoke with John Sandweg. He's the former acting director of ICE during the Obama administration.
Given everything that and the struggles the agency is having with use of force issues, given the reputational issues that the agency is having across the United States and really outside the United States, this one's a real head scratcher, right? The timing just doesn't seem right. But also from an operational perspective, I struggle to understand what the goal here is with the gloves. There's certainly, look, there may be a time and place and for a limited deployment of a tool like this, but remember, ICE is a civil immigration enforcement agency who's enforcing civil laws, and the idea of equipping officers with these gloves, especially with all the other struggles, just really seems short-sighted. The situations we've seen where the lethal force has been used has primarily been in vehicular stops, and that's a separate topic altogether. But it's not a circumstance where the officers actually have hands-on skin, which is when these gloves work. There's also other tools that are typically deployed with ICE officers, including those taser electric stun guns, right? Which oftentimes they'd carry, which is a less than lethal tool that is more similar to a firearm. I think what's important to note here is I don't know of any other U.S. law enforcement agency that deploys these gloves out to their field agents. So ICE would be really the first on a widespread basis to deploy these gloves out to field agents, and doing so, as I mentioned earlier, oftentimes, and frankly right now, more often than not, against a population that has never been accused of committing a crime, but just people who overstayed their visa or maybe crossed that border a decade ago, but have didn't leave because they built a life in the United States. So it's just, again, it's just real hard to look at this particular tool and understand what is the operational need here. The fear here, though, would be that the officers will just too quickly resort to turning on these gloves, providing electric shock to individuals. It ultimately is going to backfire on the agency itself because it just feeds that narrative people have of ICE as a rogue law enforcement agency, which ultimately hinders the agency's ability to execute its public safety mission.
That was John Sandweg, who's former acting director of ICE during the Obama administration, was his term. The company that makes the gloves is Compliant Technologies, and it says the devices function like a normal pair of patrol gloves until officers press a switch to activate the electrical mode. So we'll see what happens in the States.
Local news is in decline across Canada, and this is bad news for all of us. With less local news, noise, rumors, and misinformation fill the void, and it gets harder to separate truth from fiction. That's why CBC News is putting more journalists in more places across Canada, reporting on the ground from where you live, telling the stories that matter to all of us. Because local news is big news. Choose news, not noise. CBC News.
Well, we're waking up to a gray sky in Winnipeg. Some light rain, really just sort of trace amounts around the city popping up now. 17 degrees, 30% chance of showers with us for the day, and a high of 24. It's going to be wetter to the west, as we told you. A special weather statement's been issued and a yellow rainfall warning, 50 to 70 millimeters from Riding Mountain down to Verdun into tonight, and then 20 to 50 around the Dauphin, Russell, and Winnipeg-Osis area is what you can expect. Well, let's talk a little bit about this fall civic election coverage from CBC. We do have some of our locations confirmed for the morning show. So just want to share with you, because we might be in your ward, in your part of Winnipeg covering the election, or we might be in your city because we're going to be traveling as well. Because remember, this is not just a Winnipeg election, it's civic, it's municipalities. So we're going out to some other cities in Winnipeg, in Manitoba rather, as well. So in Winnipeg, September 10th, we're going to be in Waverley West Ward. Then we also have plans to go to the St. Vital ward later in September. We are going to be traveling outside of Winnipeg. September 17th, we're going to Thompson, which will be interesting. So we'll be there live in Thompson, talking about what is happening with your races for mayor and city council there. And then we're heading to the second largest city in the province. We will be back out in Brandon, and that's the beginning of October 8th, covering the civic election. So those are our stops so far, and we have more in the works. If you want to weigh in. If you're already engaged maybe you are engaged already in thinking about how you're going to be voting, what matters to you, you can always reach out, especially to those of us that are political nerds. There's a few of us on this show, so you can call us at 788-3205 anytime on our listener line. It is right now at 10 to 7, and the federal government is allocating millions of dollars for small climate mitigation projects in Canada. Environment Minister Julie DeBrusen made the announcement on Wednesday. She says extreme weather is the new norm, and we need to brace for it.
Preparing for these climate disruptions means helping communities build strong, resilient infrastructure to protect people's health, well-being, and livelihoods.
A total of $34 million is going to 100 climate projects. And to talk about what that could look like, Matt Siamatiki is with us. He's a professor of geology and planning and director of the Infrastructure Institute at the University of Toronto. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with us. So can you give us a sense of the kind of projects the feds are trying to fund with this?
Yeah, the funding is for a mix of climate action plans, looking at risk, looking at how to adapt. And then there's some small scale investment in things like shoreline restorations, cooling infrastructure in parks, some money for affordable housing to try to look at cooling in some of those units in Waterloo region. So it's a mix of money. In Manitoba, it's mostly for climate adaptation plans. So this is for the upfront planning that will still then require money coming in behind it to actually do the real investments.
So when they say things like one of their quotes about what this will be for is flood, as you're highlighting, quote, flood resilient infrastructure, end quote. What I'm hearing from you is like Peguis, it's been waiting for some kind of help in their community, probably diversion of water. The actual work on something is not what this money's about. This is about we're still in the planning phases.
This is money, the largest number of investments are going into planning, and then but the most amount of money is going into some small scale interventions. When it comes to flooding, it could be things like shoreline restoration. There's some ideas of sponge parks where you try to keep the water in place with green infrastructure rather than having to flush it into the sewer system and move it with gray infrastructure. But this is not the money for Manitoba, which experiences major flooding. This is not the money that's going to pay for the big infrastructure upgrades that will provide the ultimate protection that's needed.
Okay. Now, we have talked about sponge parks here before, too, so that's a really relevant example for us. We've also heard this money might be going toward things like cooling stations, as you said, in public parks. Can you outline a little bit more about what a project like that entails?
Yeah, it seems like it's a range. One is misting stations where, it might be a fountain that blows mist onto people. It might also be for shade structures. I mean, we used to plan parks to try to provide people with access to sunlight because that's what we found that people wanted in the summer. Increasingly, if you go to a park in a real heat wave, what you find is that people are tracking the shade. And so some of this might be for planting trees. Some of it might be for other shade structures. But, I think we have to say, $34 million in these small interventions, these are nice, but this is not game changing when it comes to the scale of the risks of climate change that our country is facing. We've had insurable losses in the billions of dollars from major climate events just in the last couple of years. We have serious forest fires right now. We have thousands of people out of their homes. We have flooding in Ontario just right now. So it's wet and wild all over the country, and we need major investments. This is a drop in the ocean compared to what's needed for a country the scale of ours with the impacts that we're experiencing.
There's a measure to mitigate extreme heat for housing that was also mentioned by the government. And I'm mentioning that one here because we've just had, a real long period of extreme heat. July was 35 degrees on some days and more. So what might that mean for a house?
Yeah, so when it comes to heat, we recognize that there's real inequalities across our cities and between the different types of housing units, between who's really experiencing the brunt. So part of this money could be for green solutions like planting trees. When you have a greener tree canopy, which is often in wealthier neighborhoods, those neighborhoods might be actually degrees cooler than in areas that don't have the same tree cover. So that's one type of intervention. But this might also be for mechanical cooling, like air conditioning, either in individual units or at the very least providing a cooled room in a building that was never designed for 35-degree temperatures over days or possibly even weeks on end. That is unbearable. And heat is a real killer. It's sad to say, but heat over long periods of time without the appropriate infrastructure and cooling in place can really be deadly. So that's one of the areas that this is looking at. But again, spreading this small amount of money over this many communities is just a down payment on what's needed for a country the size of ours.
What do communities get wrong when planning for things like flooding or extreme heat?
Yeah, some of it is not understanding that there's inequalities and that not everyone is impacted equally. And then I think also that there's kind of a sense in Canada sometimes that the plan is the outcome. The plan is the intermediary step along the path to the action, and the action is what's most needed. This amount of money, a lot of it for planning, is a good start, but it needs to be backed up by just a huge amount of investment and attention to detail on how to implement these projects so that Canadians can really see the impact and the outcomes in their daily lives and in their communities.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Appreciate having you on Information Radio here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So my guest live on Zoom this morning with us has been Matty Siamatekitiki. He is the professor of geography and planning and director of Infrastructure Institute at the University of Toronto. 4 minutes to 7 o'clock now on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcuso. We're live downtown at our CBC Studio 15 in the city, and in the next hour of Information Radio right after 7 o'clock. If you've been noticing more butterflies in the garden lately, you're not alone. On social media feeds, there's just streams of pictures this year, I found. We're going to talk to Living Prairie Museum's curator about why that might be. Also in the next hour of the show, we're taking you to opening night of Rainbow Stage's Legally Blonde. People are talking about it in the city. There's a bit of buzz around this show. And then coming up at 10 to 8 this morning, we're going to be talking to a pest control expert about why municipalities in Manitoba, including Winnipeg, are sounding the alarm about running out of the pesticide they use for mosquito fogging. And what are the alternatives if we do run out of it? So stay tuned. We'll have those conversations in the next hour of the show. Weather-wise, as I've been mentioning, cloudy. We've got some very light rain falling in parts of the city, just in pockets. Downtown, we're not seeing it. No wipers on. But today we have a 30% chance it's with us. Mainly cloudy, high 24. And then we have a yellow rainfall warning that extends from Riding Mountain down to Verdun. We're talking 50 to 70 millimeters through today and tonight. Josh Crabb is in with live headlines now. Hi.
Good morning. A company that pays people for their plasma is suspending donations in Winnipeg and across the country. Grifols says it's pausing activities in light of what it calls unfounded attention focused on paid plasma. Childcare advocates say Manitoba is not moving fast enough when it comes to adding daycare spaces. The provincial and federal governments say almost 1,100 new spaces have opened in Manitoba since 2025, but critics say daycares should be treated more like schools, opening new ones as demand for spaces grows. And Thursday evening, people at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights got to hear from a young but mighty First Nations activist. Autumn Peltier from Wikwamacong First Nation on Manitoulin Island spoke about respect for water and Indigenous sovereignty. Your next local CBC News is at 7:30.
Thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
Josh Crabb has been filling in for Heather all week from our news desk. 2 minutes to 7 now. The latest, as I've been mentioning, in national and international news is up at the clock throughout the morning. And it's 1 minute now to 7 o'clock. So stay with us right here on CBC, and then we're back with more local programming.
Today on The Current.
I'm JP Tasker. Through yoga nights, karaoke, and affordable dinners, Legion branches across the country are making a big play to welcome new members in its 100th year.
A place where veterans would go and enjoy a couple of beers. Well, we've changed that.
How Legions are working to provide third spaces for people and also survive. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Natalia Goodwin. Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is meeting with the federal government's advisory committee today. Minister LeBlanc will update members on how trade negotiations are progressing. It comes as a deadline for new U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods continues to loom. CBC's Olivia Stefanovich joins us now. Olivia, what do we know about today's meeting?
Well, for the first time in a while, we're hearing from the U.S. about how these trade talks are going. Yesterday, the minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade, Dominic LeBlanc, and Canada's chief negotiator, Janice Charette, met with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer in Washington, D.C. It was their second meeting this week, their fourth in recent weeks, and following the meeting, Greer spoke exclusively to CBC News.
We had good discussions today. We were cordial. They were detailed. The president, the prime minister, obviously they'll be given options and discussions, but I don't think there's anything to report right now.
Now, after that meeting, a source told CBC News that Charette returned to Greer's office to continue discussions with her counterpart late into the evening. Now, earlier this week, sources told CBC News that the Canadian side was unhappy with what the Americans were offering because the U.S. wasn't willing to go as far as Canada wants to reduce sectoral tariffs. Remember, Canadian officials say they're looking for a comprehensive deal with the U.S. that will address the tariffs hitting steel, aluminum, forestry products, and autos hard. They also want to avoid new tariffs from taking effect. If no deal is reached within the next few days, the Trump administration is set to impose a new 50% levy on hundreds of Canadian goods starting Wednesday.
And Minister LeBlanc is also scheduled to brief provinces today. So what do we know about that?
Yes, well, LeBlanc's office says both the minister and Charette will brief provincial and territorial trade ministers, as well as the Advisory Committee on Canada-U.S. relations today. Now, the premiers continue to hold leverage in this trade war because most of them have a ban on American alcohol, which the Trump administration wants reversed. Here's Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
We need to protect manufacturing sector before we put any booze on the shelves.
Now, LeBlanc's office says both meetings today will be conducted by the minister and Charette virtually from Washington, D.C., where they remain to finalize an agreement with the Americans before next Wednesday's tariff deadline.
Thank you, Olivia.
You're welcome.
That's CBC's Olivia Stefanovich joining us from Ottawa. Nigel Farage has won back his seat in Britain's Parliament. The leader of the far-right Reform UK party took over 63% of the vote in Clacton. Farage triggered the by-election himself after resigning amid an ethics probe into undeclared gifts. Coming in second with more than a quarter of the votes, a comedian known as Count Binface. The CBC's Julia Chapman reports.
Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency.
As the result was announced, the winner was nowhere to be seen. Nigel Farage stayed away, claiming he'd been warned of a plot to humiliate him. Farage was already the MP for this constituency. He stood down, triggering a by-election as he faced a growing scandal over his finances. An investigation was underway into his failure to declare a nearly $10 million gift from a cryptocurrency billionaire. Farage insists he did nothing wrong and argues the election outcome proves voters don't care.
So I asked the voters of Clacton to be my jury.
The Reform UK leader won comfortably with 63% of the vote, but all the other major parties had boycotted, calling the by-election a political stunt. Farage's only real challenger was a comedian dressed as a garbage can, known as Count Binface. He won nearly 27% of the vote.
If they choose not to stand, somebody has to stand up and be the opposition.
Reform UK is a far-right party that campaigns against immigration, climate action and high taxes. Across the country, it had been polling ahead of other parties, until the scrutiny came over Farage's finances. The Clacton result is unlikely to make Farage's problems go away. Now that he is returning to Parliament, the investigation into his finances has already resumed. Julia Chapman, CBC News, London.
Luigi Mangione could plead guilty to federal charges as early as today. He is accused of murdering a healthcare CEO on a Manhattan sidewalk in 2024, a crime for which he still faces state murder charges. Today's federal hearing in New York addresses the counts of stalking resulting in death. CBC's Chris Reyes joins us live from New York. Chris, what can we expect in court today?
So, Natalia, nothing is certain at this point. Several news outlets, including the New York Times and Reuters, are reporting that inside sources indicate that Mangione might plead guilty to those federal charges. The allegation is that Mangione crossed state lines, used the internet and other means with the intent to stalk and kill United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. We might also see supporters for Mangione at the courthouse, as we've seen in past appearances. So Mangione has become somewhat of a cult personality since his arrest. His supporters have celebrated this crime as an act of justice against the health insurance industry in this country. We could also hear from lawyers on both sides today over what a guilty plea charge would entail. So the death penalty was on the table when there were murder and weapons charges attached to the federal case. That's no longer on the table, but life in prison is still a possibility.
Okay, and Mangione is still facing serious state charges. So how could that case be affected?
That's right. So those charges include second-degree murder and weapons-related charges. They also carry a maximum sentence of life in prison. This could be a significant development in that case set to start next month in New York. While the federal and state charges are different, a guilty plea could give Mangione's defense an opening to argue double jeopardy. So in New York State, you can't be tried for the same offense twice. Meanwhile, Mangione is currently being detained in Brooklyn.
Thanks so much for this, Chris.
Thank you.
The CBC's Chris Reyes in New York. Only 30% of Canadians have taken action to respond to the climate risks their households face. That's according to a progress report released this week by the federal government, which launched the National Adaptation Strategy 3 years ago. It missed its target of getting 50% of households to take action by 2025. Ryan Ness, Director of Adaptation at the Canadian Climate Institute, says he is encouraged by some progress, but warns the report lacks clarity on real-world impact.
The National Adaptation Strategy is a useful foundation for understanding what Canada can do to adapt to the effects of climate change, but on its own, it hasn't been enough to drive action and to drive results.
Ness says Canada is playing catch up on climate adaptation. He says governments need to track real metrics, like how many homes face fire or flood risks and how many are now protected. More than 100 wildfires are burning across British Columbia, forcing 19,000 people from their homes. In hard-hit regions like the Okanagan, summer tourism is taking a heavy toll. As CBC's Helen Pike reports, local business owners are watching summer revenue vanish.
In the morning, smoke. The afternoon, clear blue skies. And just beyond the water and sand of Penticton Beach, fire crews still working to bring the Bald Range wildfire under control. This is the uncertainty hitting tourism in the Okanagan. Kelsey Hoy owns Tickleberries, a local ice cream shop. Her beachside locations are smoked out, and fewer customers are walking by downtown.
Obviously, it's the right thing to do, but then from the business standpoint, you are just devastated.
Summer tourism here is becoming less of a sure thing. Businesses can't depend on it to make or break their year anymore. Without permission to enter Summerland, business owners anxious to get back to parched vineyards are still on the outside looking in. Christine Coletta is the co-owner of Okanagan Crush Pad Winery.
If we can't get in and open the tasting room and get our staff back in place, we're going to miss seeing thousands of people from now until the end of October.
One step getting things moving again.
Highway 97 has opened.
Fire Information Officer Aaron Catterall echoes messaging from Drive BC. The key artery is accessible only for set hours, treated as a through route. reduced speeds, no stopping, no exits. And even that could change at a moment's notice as the wildfire continues to burn. Helen Pike, CBC News, Penticton.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News updated throughout the day and night, cbc.ca. I'm Natalia Goodwin.
Well, you made it to Friday, folks. Thanks for starting the day with us. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You are on the morning show for this Friday, August 14th on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and on YouTube. Wherever you're watching or listening, thanks for joining us. We have had some rain already in Winnipeg, really light rain. It's going to be heavier out to the west, and we'll get into your forecast in just a moment. Currently in the city, it is 17 degrees in the downtown where our CBC studio is. Coming up this hour on the program, all that rain could mean more mosquitoes, and the city of Winnipeg is searching for alternatives for their adult mosquito fogging pesticide. So the one they use now is no longer being made, so they're running out. What will they use instead, and will it be as safe as this one has deemed to be? We're going to hear from a pest control expert this hour on the show. Also this hour, we'll take you to the opening night at Rainbow Stage last night for Legally Blonde, and we'll hear about why people are spotting more butterflies in their gardens this year. First, Josh Crabb has other headlines and developments.
Good morning. Donors at the Griffles Clinic on Taylor Avenue Thursday afternoon said it was business as usual. This comes as the Spanish company says it's pausing plasma collections at all of its Canadian locations, blaming what it calls unfounded attention on paid plasma donations. Two southwest Manitoba communities say they've had enough of treacherous highway driving due to huge holes and missing chunks of pavement. I'll tell you what's being done to fix up Highway 41 west of Brandon in the arm of Ellis Archie. And the Canadian Museum for Human Rights hosted a powerful young voice for Indigenous rights and environmental justice. Autumn Peltier spoke at the museum Thursday night about respect for water and Indigenous sovereignty. Your next local CBC News is at 7:30.
All right, thanks a lot, Josh.
Thank you.
Let's get into the forecast now, starting with some current temperatures. So it is still raining in Brandon. That's going to continue. It's 15. Windsor Northeast at 15. In Thompson, it's mainly clear, and that's also going to continue. You'll have sunshine up there. And it's 6 degrees right now, winds are calm. Here in Winnipeg, we had spotty rain. Right now, it's just mostly cloudy, 17 degrees, winds are calm as well. Our high today is 24. The bulk of the rain here is a yellow rainfall warning for the area Riding Mountain down to Verdun. We're talking 50 to 70 millimeters. And then the area in the special weather statement on the map is Dauphin, Russell, Winnipeg, Osas, 20 to 50 millimeters. If you're looking just at the map, you can see exactly where the issues are because everything's green. And then you've got those pockets of red and yellow, which is where the rain's going to affect things. Okay, commute now with Corey Funk at 7:13.
Yes, very quiet commute right now. I will let folks know that starting tomorrow, 6 a.m., it's going to be a slog through St. Anne's Road and Abinogi-Meekina. There's paving going on there, and that's running from 6 a.m. tomorrow till 6 p.m. on Sunday. So essentially, the city says that if you're going on down St. Anne's Road, you're going to be forced to turn right onto Abinogi-Meekina, whether you're going north or south. But if you're going east or west on Abinogi-Meekina, it's just going to be down to one lane both ways. So you want to avoid that intersection if you can over the weekend. That's St. Anne's Road, Abinogi-Meekina. In terms of your active commute, I'll let folks know that the river trail from the ledge all the way to the forks open now. I actually biked it the other day. A little mucky in some spots, so just heads up there. But once again, walkable, bikeable after the river was so high for much of the summer. If you have any other updates for me, if you're walking your bike and you're driving, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Well, August gives us more chances to see monarchs ahead of their fall migration south. And a lot of Manitobans this year are saying they're seeing more butterflies than usual. Earlier this week, the Living Prairie Museum's curator, Marika Olinik, spoke with the CBC's Bryce Hoy about it. And he asked her about the museum's monarch butterfly population this year.
Yeah, at our site at Living Prairie Museum, and we talked to a large number of people across the city, we're seeing lots and lots of monarchs this year in Winnipeg, tons.
Any idea why that might be?
It's going to be a mix of factors. They are a migratory species, so sometimes it just depends on how many actually make it here from further south. I think last year not that many made it. But also, just the way that we've had a lot of rain in the early summer, things are growing really well in Winnipeg, so there's a lot of food. The habitat is good and safe for them right now, so we're seeing, I think, a high number for that reason.
What are we seeing happen here?
Yeah, we're kind of seeing, I think, two separate generations happening here. So the earliest ones we kind of noted showing up late May, early June. Those ones came, they laid their eggs. Takes about a month to go through the life cycle, and then so we're seeing kind of in July, that first generation coming. What we're already seeing now is the second generation, but we're also noticing some old worn out ones. So I think there's also some that are moving in from other places. I think we're seeing a bit of a mix this year. Some years the generations are really distinct. At least what we're seeing in our site is there's sort of been a steady amount of caterpillars, chrysalises, and butterflies almost all summer long. So like I said, quite a lot happening.
Yeah, which is wonderful. Also a little bit maybe unusual.
Yeah, like I said, this is my third summer at this site. Definitely the most that we've seen at this site over the last 3 summers. But they are insects, right? They lay a lot of eggs. They're very mobile insects, so they can move around from habitat patch to habitat patch. Although we have sort of these rules about generations, it's not as cut and dried as it seems. We may have 3 generations in a year, we may have 4 generations in a year, for example. It just depends. They're found all across North America, so in some places the generations may be a little different than in other locations.
Something I think people maybe don't really understand is why monarchs are so picky about what they need to nest. You've mentioned milkweed. Why is that such a critical thing for them? Why can they not, utilize any number of flowering plants or grasses to nest on?
Yeah, so we call them a host plant. Milkweed is a host plant for monarch butterflies, and so the word we might use is specialized. Monarchs are a specialized species. Basically, they just can't eat other species. It's not going to give them the nutrients that they need to survive and to grow and develop as caterpillars into butterflies. They might be able to occasionally munch on other things, but it's not going to be their preference. They've also evolved, right? These butterflies have evolved in this habitat for tens of thousands of years, possibly even more than that. They can sense milkweed, they can find it, they're attracted to it. You'll watch a female monarch fly over the prairie and she'll hone in on where the milkweed is. They can't just suddenly switch because there's not milkweed for them. They're not able to do that after, so much evolution. So that's one of the main things. There's other caterpillars out there that what we would call generalized species. They can eat a whole bunch of different kinds of plants. It's also one of the things that leads to them becoming an endangered species. Often our specialized species are the ones that have a harder time shifting as their habitat changes, usually due to human causes.
What would it mean to you if they just stopped showing up?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things. One thing is that this habitat itself is endangered. Tallgrass prairie used to cover huge amounts of the center of North America. Almost all of it is gone. So one of the things that we see as we lose the species, we're also losing the habitat. Monarchs are a really good symbol of that species loss and that habitat loss, unfortunately. So we don't want to see them go extinct because they're also a really amazing learning tool for people. They're big, they're vibrant, people can see them in their habitat. We're watching them fly around right now. So they help people understand sort of some of the effects that we're having on the natural world. Another thing is, for every species that you take away from a natural habitat, you're slowly eroding the viability of that space in the long run, right? Maybe it's monarchs, but then maybe it's another butterfly, and then maybe it's some type of grasshopper, and then maybe it's the little ground squirrels that feed on certain plants, right? You slowly lose that balance the more that you lose species. So although we might say, oh, okay, one species on its own isn't going to make a difference, monarchs are really symbolic of that loss overall, and these other species that maybe don't catch our attention as much, but are slowly disappearing as well.
What do you say to the folks who actually go to those lengths to create a little patch of native prairie to invite these endangered monarchs into their little refuge?
Planting milkweed is a really great way to encourage monarch butterflies. We also suggest, though, plant some of those nectar flowers, right? When those caterpillars grow up, they still need food. So creating a little patch of habitat right? They are a mobile species, but if your milkweed is far, far away from any sort of nectar flower, well, that's going to be a little bit hard once they're flying around as butterflies. So that's something we suggest. We also recommend not raising monarchs inside and also not gathering them up and bringing them together into one place. That can facilitate disease transfer, for example, and it's generally been seen that over the last few years, the thing that monarchs really need is that habitat protection and that habitat restoration, as opposed to sort of the rearing of caterpillars. It is fantastic to watch a little tiny caterpillar grow up into a great big guy. If you happen to have those in your yard or your neighborhood, keep a watch on them. Observe that, show it to your kids. Like I said, it's an amazing way to learn about how the natural world works, but we generally recommend trying to keep them in a natural kind of area or a natural habitat as much as possible, rather than raising them in an indoor context.
Marika Olinick, curator of the Living Prairie Museum, in conversation with CBC's Bryce Hoy about it being a great year to look for monarchs. Maybe not a great year to find milkweed, though. You might have to be trading with some folks. It is 7:20 right now at the time. The temperature right now 17 degrees. Winds are calm. And today we have a 30% chance of showers in Winnipeg and a high of 24. Well, were you out last night? It sure was a beautiful night, especially if you happen to be at Rainbow Stage. They've got their musical rendition of Legally Blonde that opened last night in Kildonan Park in North Winnipeg. It's based, of course, on the 2001 movie with Reese Witherspoon. As folks were making their way into the show, CBC's Sophia Peralta-Barone was there, and she was asking what they love about the now classic legal comedy.
Annette Colbert.
What do you like about the story about Legally Blonde?
I think it's empowering. I think it shows young women that you can do what you want, and you can if you put in the effort, you can do hard things.
Ruth Russo. The deeper meaning is that there's much more to life than just following some guy around, and that you just need to dig deep and find out like what you're passionate about and what you can be in your life, and not just do what's easy.
And what does Legally Blonde mean to you?
She's just like my hero from my childhood. I like to dress like her, and she's just smart but silly.
Megan Jans.
Destiny Clausen.
Well, I've been in theater since I was a kid, and I love it. And I love, inspiring women and all that.
Legally Blonde is such an important story about feminism and, shedding labels, and you're not just about looks. There's more to women.
Carissa Rempel.
Aliana Rempel.
Her attitude towards all people was, so inclusive and also forgiving. I like the way she is just accepting of everyone.
I think I have to agree on that. They didn't write her like a typical popular girl that's usually written. She's very kind and inclusive, and I think they did a really good job showing that in the movie and also the prequel, but I think a lot of people forget about that part.
And what is your favorite scene in Legally Blonde?
Easy. I love when she meets her ex-boyfriend at Harvard and she's like, "Oh, you go here? I totally forgot you go here." And my favorite line is, "What, it's hard?"
I watch Legally Blonde whenever it's on TV. It's one of my guilty pleasures. I can't help it. That was the CBC Sophia Peralta-Barone talking to a lot of other fans who made their way to see the musical rendition last night at Kildonan Park at Rainbow Stage. It was opening night for Legally Blonde, the musical. It runs until August 30th. And we couldn't resist, so we went to the soundtrack for Legally Blonde, the musical. On CBC Next, 89.3 FM, this is Oh My God, you guys!
Dear Allie, he's a lucky guy. I'm gonna cry. I got tears coming out of my nose. Mad Rob, he's the campus catch. You're a perfect match, 'cause you both have such great taste in clothes. Of course he will propose. Dear Elle, honey, muzzle top. Future's taken off. Bring that ring back and show it to me. 4 carats, a princess cut. Now that a man chose you, your life begins today. Make him a happy home, waste not his hard-earned wage, and so he does not roam. Strive not to look your age, still in your hour of need, let it be understood, no man can supersede our sacred bond of sisterhood. Oh my God,
That is the tune. Oh my God, you guys, from Legally Blonde the musical. We couldn't resist pulling something from the soundtrack, but you can see some of the music live because it's on now in Rainbow Stage. Are you awake now, Paul?
Yeah, very awake.
Oh my God, Paul McGowan, what's going on in sports? Like, I'd love to know. Let's start with the Bombers. Don't they host the worst team in the CFL tonight? Okay, I'm done now.
They do. Yeah, and for a couple of weeks now, games against these Ottawa Red Blacks have been talked about as trap games, although the closest Ottawa has actually come to a win was against the Bombers last month. The good news for Winnipeg is that Zach Collaros is back under center. He missed the last 4 games with an injury. And even though the Bombers were 2-2 with backup Drew Brown, running back Brady Oliveira said that the offense definitely missed having Collaros in the huddle.
I think you start to really realize when you have a guy out of the lineup for a little bit, his importance. It's hard to put into words, but I think, what I've really noticed is even just in the huddle, like he knows when to speak, when needed, when to get the guys going. You're going to face adversity throughout the game, and you look at him in the eyes and he doesn't have to say anything to you, and you know that, okay, we're good. So I think that's what he really brings to this team.
We'll see what Collaros can do against a Red Blacks defense that's allowed the second most points in the league this year. It's a 7:30 start at Princess Auto Stadium.
You know what? You can't take anything for granted, so we'll see what goes on. Yeah. Let's go to the pool. Summer McIntosh grabbing a gold now in California.
And we heard how disappointed she was on Wednesday in that silver medal, and so not a surprise that she would come out strong in yesterday's 400-meter individual medley. She wins gold. She smashes the Pan-Pacific Championships record in the process. And then because she's Summer McIntosh, she is still a little bit self-critical after the fact. She told CBC's Devin Haru that she felt like she had more to give last night. But in case you were worried about Summer being able to stop and smell the roses, she did seem genuinely happy after racing in the 4x200 freestyle relay.
I mean, I think I honestly forgot how fun relays are, because it's been a while since Worlds last season. And it was just so much fun, getting out there racing. I'm so proud of these girls, and to get the bronze medal, I mean, I think this is a really big moment for us for sure.
As you heard there, bronze for Canada in that 4x200 relay. So 2 medals for Summer McIntosh on the day, and she is likely not done. She has the 400-meter freestyle today. Those heats begin in just about an hour and a half. The Pan-Pacific Swimming Championships wrap up tomorrow.
All right, and for baseball lovers, I think I'm going to tune into this game for sure because I'm off this afternoon. The Jays need a rebound today. They did have a loss yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, that 3-game winning streak comes to an end against Boston, but plenty of positives over the course of the week, including making up ground in the American League wildcard race. They also got another gem of a start yesterday from starting pitcher Max Scherzer. He's been especially effective since coming back from injury, and he said after yesterday's game that being close in that AL wildcard race has not changed how the team is approaching games.
Nothing's changed from our perspective. It changes from the fans' perspective. I get it. I mean, the fans are seeing this, and they kind of ride the roller coaster more so than we do. We're in here every single day going through our routines, and it's good for us to be this close because the fans now can get into it. And definitely for us to be in a playoff race like this, it does have everybody charged. But our job's to win no matter what. Whether the standings and all that does not matter for us.
Max Scherzer there trying to convince you that he's not excited at the prospect of playoff baseball. If the Jays want to stay in that wild card picture, the coming weekend is a big one. The Yankees are in town for a 3-game series. The Jays start the weekend 2 games back of a wild card spot.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Marcy.
That's Paul McGowan with Morning Sports on CBC. You're listening to the Friday Morning Show on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app, or maybe you're watching on YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Corey Funk and Darren Marash and Jenica Sewell in our control room this morning, rounding out our team, and Josh Krabs in our news center. We're going to hear from him in a moment on what's happening in the news. And then we'll have your regional forecast coming up. We're watching rain in central and western Manitoba. Mostly the area from Riding Mountain to Verdon has a yellow rainfall warning. Right now it's 17 in Winnipeg. The morning drive, though, if you're in Winnipeg or another city in Manitoba this morning or on the highway, seems to be going pretty well. We haven't heard of any big incidents, but you can call us if you need to correct that or update that. The commuter line is 788-3093. Coming up after the news, we've got a super cute story. Who doesn't love a baby animal? What would you do to name a new baby animal at Assiniboine Park Zoo? What name would you choose? Well, there's a short list of names, baby names for a gibbon, and they want your help to narrow down the list. So we'll find out what's on that list. We'll hear more about gibbons, and that interview is coming up after your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Josh Crabb in Winnipeg at 7:30. It's mostly cloudy and 17 downtown, rain and 15 in Brandon, mostly cloudy and 11 in Dauphin. An advocate for public health care says he's glad 2 for-profit plasma clinics in Winnipeg have suspended operations. The Spanish company Grifols says it's pausing plasma collections at all of its Canadian locations. It's blaming what it calls unfounded attention after 2 people died in the past year after donating plasma at Grifols clinics in Winnipeg. Noah Schulz is the director of the Manitoba Health Coalition. He's encouraged by Grifols' decision, but he also wants to see the profit motive entirely removed from the plasma collection process.
We need to shut that system down, and at the same time, we need to invest in and build up the public system so that there is no shortages, so that all patients get the care they need. We can do this. We can build up a voluntary collection system nationally if the political will and the funding is there, and we can do this in a way that is affordable for the public.
Health Canada has said neither of the Winnipeg deaths was linked to the plasma donation process, but it has also documented issues with some of the company's procedures. Donors at the Grifols location on Taylor Avenue yesterday afternoon said they had no idea anything was amiss. Tyler Ducharme said he and his wife have been going to Grifols twice a week without any problems. If they can't sell their plasma anymore, he says it might be a blow to their vacation fund.
I know there's a lot of people that really rely on it. We're not those people, but it wouldn't change things for us at all.
Grifols says during the pause, it'll be working with the government and Canadian Blood Services with an eye toward resuming operations as soon as it's practicable. Childcare advocates say Manitoba should be more proactive when it comes to adding daycare spaces. Yesterday, the province and the feds said nearly 1,100 new spaces have opened in Manitoba since 2025. Both levels of government have funded new centres and expanded existing ones, but critics say Manitoba is not moving fast enough. Morna Ballantyne is director of Childcare Now, a national advocacy group. She says Manitoba's system is too passive, relying on daycare operators to set up shop.
We would like to see kind of approach that we use in public education, where governments take responsibility to ensure that where child population requires an expansion of the public education system, they make it happen.
The province says it's opened or is committed to almost 13,000 new spaces since 2023. That puts Manitoba about halfway to meeting its pledge to create 23,000 spaces as part of a deal with Ottawa. 2 communities in southwest Manitoba say the crumbling highway they share is dangerous. Highway 41 connects Macaulay and St. Lazare. A St. Lazare business owner says holes and gouges force drivers to swerve at a moment's notice. Dolores Fouillard wants to know when the provincial government is going to fix the entire surface, not just do patchwork.
We have substantial amount of traffic, lots of commercial traffic, lots of big trucks, contractors, farmers, you name it. It's dangerous. It's getting to be to the point where it's getting I'm surprised there hasn't been any accidents.
Maintenance crews were on the highway this week fixing unsafe areas. Thursday evening, people at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights got to hear from a young but mighty First Nations activist. Autumn Peltier is a water warrior from Wikwamacong First Nation on Manitoulin Island. She's been advocating for water rights since she was 8 years old. Now in her 20s, she says clean water is the first step toward true reconciliation.
No matter, where we come from, no matter what the color of our skin is or how rich or poor we are, we all deserve clean drinking water. That's how we're all connected. That's why it's so important to protect our water, and that's why it's so important for all of us as one nation to understand this collectively and advocate and work together.
Peltier says restricted access to clean drinking water infringes on the human rights and health of First Nations people. And the Winnipeg Sea Bears hope there may be a silver lining to last-minute changes to their playoff games. Earlier this week, condensation on the court in Ontario prompted the cancellation of their 3-game series against the Brampton Honey Badgers. It's now a one-game winner-takes-all tomorrow afternoon in Winnipeg. Rianne Marcoux is the Sea Bears president. She says anyone with tickets to Sunday's game has received a refund.
We've already processed refunds for those that had purchased their tickets should there have been a Sunday game, and season ticket members have a credit on their account and have the option of getting the refund there as well. So it just means that we can pack more people into our building on Saturday.
Marcoux says they have opened the Upper Bowl at Canada Life Centre. She hopes they can reach a Canadian Elite Basketball League record of 12,000 people at the game. So far, they have sold more than 9,500. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 8:30.
Thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
Well, let's look at where it's raining and other issues in the sky. Tuduli Lake right now with haze. Portage has light rain showers currently. Hazy up in Churchill as well, and rain now in Brandon. It had been lightly raining. Now it's full-on rain. Starting in Winnipeg with your regional forecast, 17 now, mostly cloudy, 30% of showers today, and a high 24. Periods of rain for us beginning after midnight. In Brandon, you're in the yellow rainfall warning area. So we're talking Riding Mountain down to Verdun, 50 to 70 millimeters of rain. And then Dauphin, Russell, Winnipeg, Osas, 20 to 50 millimeters of rain. Brandon, right now, as I mentioned, rain, and your current temperature is 15 degrees. You're expecting 5 to 10 millimeters today, and then another 5 to 10 tonight. Tomorrow, cloudy, 60% chance those showers will continue before clearing Sunday. And Thompson, mainly clear right now, 6 degrees. And clear for you for the day, mainly sunny in that northern city, a nice high of 22. Sun and cloud tonight, sun and cloud tomorrow, high of 20, and then staying nice for Sunday with 23. You could see some rain, but that doesn't come in Thompson until Monday. Current condition, as I said, is 6. Corey is in with our look at the commute.
Yes, very quiet commute so far this morning, still very much in mid-August vacation mode out there on the roads.
Yay!
Yay! But just a heads up for tomorrow, though, if you're planning to drive through St. Anne's Road and Abinogi-Meekina, that intersection there's big paving going on starting there at 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. on Sunday, so all weekend. And so the city says that essentially if you're driving north or south on St. Anne's Road, you're going to be forced to turn right onto Abinogi-Meekina. You can't go straight through. And if you're on Abinogi-Meekina going westbound or eastbound, you can go straight, but it's just going to be down to one lane. You're going to be able to turn right, but you won't be able to turn left. So essentially, you're just going to want to avoid that intersection if you can. It's going to be very, very slow going. Other than that, though, pretty quiet commute. If you do see something going on, though, if you're walking your bike and you're driving, do give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you're watching the show on YouTube because you're about to see something very cute. If you visit the Assiniboine Park Zoo and you wander to the gibbon exhibit, look really closely. Oh, the picture of this little animal just came up. You might just spot the newest addition to the family. What we're looking at, if you're watching the show on YouTube, is this 7-month-old baby clinging tightly to its mother Maya's black fur. It's an adorable baby gibbon, and it needs a name, this little guy with his little white fur around his face. He's so cute. Chris Enright, Dr. Chris Enright is here to talk about the animal. He's Senior Director of Zoological Operations at the Assiniboine Park Zoo. Hi there.
Hi there.
Adorable animal here. For folks who don't know what a gibbon is, how do you describe it?
Gibbons are, most people are a monkey, so they're kind of monkey-sized, but have no tail. So they're an ape. And they are absolutely incredible. They live in the rainforest, off trees, and they swing tree to tree using their arms. They're absolutely incredible in how to get around the tropical forest that is their home.
We're going to have to hang up and call you back because whatever's going on with your phone line is really cutting you out, okay? So we're going to do that right now. Live radio, and we'll connect again with Dr. Chris Enright in a moment. So as I mentioned, the Assiniboine Park Zoo has this new baby gibbon, and they're looking for a name. And so they put out a short list, and Dr. Enright's going to tell us more about what names are on that list and why they chose them. But right now, we're just trying to get a clear line with him as we give him a call back from our CBC studio. Time right now is 20 minutes to 8 o'clock on CBC. And right now, the temperature in Winnipeg, as I've been mentioning, is 17 degrees. Still ahead in this this half hour of the show, we're going to be talking about mosquitoes. With more rain coming, we are going to have more problems with mosquitoes. And the city of Winnipeg right now is searching for alternatives for their adult mosquito fogging pesticide. That's since the one that they use now is no longer being made. So coming up, what are those alternatives when this runs out? We are going to be hearing about that, so stay tuned. In the meantime, though, we do have Dr. Enright back with us, and hopefully we've got a cleaner line. Sorry about that. Oh, and we are having
Sorry,
problems.
the connection was bad.
There we are. This is perfect. Thank you, Dr. Enright.
Excellent.
Appreciate it. Okay, so we actually couldn't make out much of what you said there. So how do you describe a gibbon?
Gibbons are kind of big monkey size, but they're actually an ape. So gibbons have no tail, which puts them on the ape side of the primate family tree. And they're a rainforest animal that lives high up in the trees, and they have an incredible way of moving around, swinging tree to tree, using their arms. So they're an incredible rainforest adapted animal.
This baby was born in early February, and then you actually have to wait for some time to understand, to know the sex. Is that right?
This baby was born a little bit later than that, but yes, it does take some time for our staff to be able to see exactly what sex a baby animal might be. This was actually a June baby.
Okay. Pardon me, I had that information incorrect. And what's the sex of this June baby?
He is a boy.
Nice. All right. So we're here to talk about not just the cuteness and to see the cute photos, but about the names. So can you tell us, Dr. Enright, what the short list is?
Absolutely. We have a short list of names that's available through our website and all of our social media links to it, where we have a poll. We want to engage our community with gibbons and how incredible they are and the threats they face. And one of the ways we do that is offering the community the opportunity to vote on names. So we have a range of names, all having some link to the communities that gibbons live in and around. So the names are Taman, Zahir, Suwanto, and Keen.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the meaning behind those names?
Absolutely. Taman, it means garden or park in Indonesian. Zahir means bright, luminous, or manifest in Arabic. Suwanto means golden or precious in Javanese and Indonesian. And Keen means strong, firm, or brave in Vietnamese.
Lovely names. How can people actually help out with the naming contest? Do they find on your website and just cast a vote?
That's right. We have a naming poll on our website, assiniboinepark.ca/babygibbon. And all of our social media channels will link to that naming poll. And it is open until Sunday, August 16th. So there's a few days left to vote.
Now, you mentioned that part of this, engaging people with the naming the public is to also raise awareness about gibbons and threats you said that they face. So can you tell us a little about that?
Absolutely. Gibbons, there's a number of different species of gibbon. This type of gibbon, the white-handed gibbon, is an endangered species. And one of the primary causes of them being endangered is deforestation. And a significant driver of deforestation is palm oil plantations. So the choices that we make in Manitoba with respect to sustainable palm oil and the products we eat or use as shampoos and conditioners in our hair, we can have impacts on wild gibbons by making good choices, sustainable choices around palm oil.
How big is this little baby right now, and how big will it get?
This little baby is absolutely tiny. So he is probably somewhere around half a kilogram in size.
Oh.
And when they're born, they're like any baby primate, they rely entirely on mom. So mom carries this baby around while she's swinging through the trees. She's very careful. She's an incredible mom. And it will take probably 4 to 6 years for him to grow to be adult size, which is somewhere around 10, 11, 12 kilograms in size. So they're not a huge animal, maybe twice the size of a domestic cat.
So if someone's searching, they really should be looking at mom to see the baby. Is that right?
That's right. For the next year or so, baby's going to be either clinging tightly to mom or within arm's reach.
The pictures that we had up, which are adorable, he looks mostly like he's sort of black fur, and then around the face he's got the white ring. Will his coloration change as he ages?
That's a great question. White-handed gibbons actually come in a range of colorations from very dark, like the gibbons in our care, to actually an almost tawny light brown color. given that both parents are quite a dark phase of this particular gibbon, I would expect baby to stay pretty dark for his life.
So let's pop that last picture up again, Darren, on our YouTube stream if people are watching there, because I have just realized, Dr. Enright, that this gibbon is so tiny. I was looking at the mum as I was describing the gibbon and not even really honing in on the fact that right nestled in the mum's fur there is this little tiny head, which is the baby, as you just described, which is just, you said, I think, did you say half a kilogram right now?
Probably about that.
Yeah, just beautiful. It's a fun time at the zoo. Tell us just briefly before you go about some other babies that people can look out for.
We're really excited about another endangered species in our care that has bred successfully this year, and that's red pandas. Now, red pandas have a different life history, and when their babies are born, they actually spend several months living in the nest with mom. So this particular red panda is living in its nest box currently, but within the next month or two, we do anticipate it being able to come outside and start connecting with our community and telling a different story about endangered species and what we can do to help them.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Always appreciate having you on.
Thank you for having me.
Summer's a great time to think about our zoo and all those babies there right now. Dr. Chris Enright, Senior Director of Zoological Operations over at Assiniboine Park Zoo in Winnipeg with us live on Zoom today. And if you want to cast your vote for the baby gibbon's name, assiniboinepark.ca/babygibbon is where you can check it out.
I'm Eric Westaver. I'm your local reporter for CBC in northern Manitoba, and you're listening to CBC Radio 1.
Well, the pesticide that many Manitoba municipalities use for adult mosquito fogging is running out. The product is called Delta Guard. Now, Enview is the company that has made it, and they say that they stopped producing it in 2023 because demand wasn't high enough. The city of Winnipeg says they're using up the current supply and are looking for alternatives but haven't found one yet. To talk more about why Manitoba is in this predicament, Ken Fry is with us via Zoom. He's an entomologist and instructor over at Olds College in Alberta. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what's different about how Manitoba does mosquito fogging compared to, say, Alberta, where you're from, or other places in Canada? What's unique about fogging here?
The very fact that you are fogging, or what we call adulticiding. So you're applying pesticides to directed and targeted at the adult stage of the mosquito. Other jurisdictions in Canada use primarily a larviciding strategy. Now, Winnipeg does do larviciding. It is an integrated part of their program, and that means you apply pesticides. In most cases, it's a natural pesticide, a biological control, not a synthetic chemical, and it's targeted at the larval breeding sites, so wherever there's standing water bodies. And this is very effective if those breeding sites are of limited number, so that you have enough people and you have enough time and material to get out and treat those sites in a timely fashion while the mosquitoes are developing. But Winnipeg's unique in the sense that it's a very wet area, considerably more wet than the drier western prairies. So you have a lot more standing water, and that means a lot more breeding sites for those larval mosquitoes. And it becomes logistically, virtually impossible to treat all of those sites effectively in a timely manner. Now, I mean, Winnipeg does have an aggressive program, but they're overwhelmed by the number of breeding sites. And so then those, mosquitoes do breed, and they do mature and emerge as adults. And so they're left with the specter of having to do adulticiding when a certain threshold number or population density is reached. The city of Winnipeg has a very strict regimen about this. They monitor quite regularly, like on a weekly basis. And when that threshold is reached, then they have to employ the adulticiding strategy.
And kill the adult mosquitoes. So they do both, as you said. If they can't keep up with killing before they're developed, they go out, and people use the term fog a lot here, right? They'll go out and fog.
That's correct.
But what is Delta Guard? Like, how does it actually work to kill the adult mosquitoes?
Well, Delta Guard is, that's the trade name. The actual active ingredient is deltamethrin. And it's a chemical that is in a class called pyrethrins. And so there's a natural pyrethroid called pyrethrum, and it's an extract from a plant, from chrysanthemum. So it's naturally produced by plants, and humans discovered this and have been using it for generations. And in fact, it's one of the most commonly available pesticides for use by homeowners because it has a very low risk. In other words, it's effective at low concentrations, and it breaks down very rapidly once it's exposed to ultraviolet light. So when we use it outdoors, it's fairly safe.
I want to interject on that point because Enview, the company that makes this, told CBC DeltaGuard to reiterate what you said is ultra low volume. But they do say now that the best replacement for DeltaGuard they have right now is not ultra low volume. So
that's correct.
So
yes.
can you explain that to us a little bit in layman's terms?
Sure. So normally when you have a pesticide, you mix it in water and you spray that water pesticide mix. So you'd buy a concentrated form of the pesticide, mix it, and then spray it out. And you have fairly large droplet sizes. You can use different pressures for different kinds of sprayers, like mechanical or pump sprayers. And you get these large droplets, and it goes out onto the plant or whatever you're applying it to. What ultra low volume means is you're basically not using water or not using very much water. And so you're using very small volumes. And when we say fogging, you're producing really tiny droplets, like a literal fog. So instead of rain droplets, it's these tiny, tiny, tiny droplets of concentrated pesticide. And those droplets can then go, because they're so small, they can roil around and move around and get into nooks and crannies that larger droplets normally cannot penetrate.
Oh, so I'm in a tell me if this is right then. We can't target what we want to fog as clearly then because it'll disperse all over the place?
Well, no, the fog does disperse. That's the main point of it is it is able. So mosquitoes, with the adult mosquitoes, they're resting. They're usually like deep in the grass or they're deep into the shrubs. So they're hiding. They're staying away from the heat of the sun. They're staying away from high winds or whatever. So in order to get the product to where they are, you need it to penetrate that plant canopy. So get into underneath all the leaves and deep into where the plant is, where the mosquitoes are hiding, or deep into the turf grass. And so a fog does that because the particles are so small.
So then why would switching to a new not ultra low volume product, if that's available to a municipality, why would that maybe not be a choice for those that use DeltaGuard like Winnipeg?
So then you're not getting those small particles that are able to penetrate where the mosquitoes are. So you'd be putting product out into the environment and it's just not getting as effectively to where it needs to be. And that is in those nooks and crannies where the adult mosquitoes are hiding. So you put these larger droplets out. Now it'll get, the exterior part of the plant and you might have a pressure spray that'll get it penetrating into the canopy, but it's not nearly as effective.
Got it. I mixed up big drops and small drops.
Yeah. So when the company says there's not that formulation, so you can formulate something as a powder, as an emulsifiable concentrate, as an ultra low volume. Ultra low volume is a very specific kind of way the product is made and how it can be delivered.
What can we use instead then? If DeltaGuard runs out, what can Manitoba municipalities look to?
Well, there are some other products on the market. So I was mentioning the pyrethroids. Deltamethrin is one of these pyrethrum-like chemicals that has been synthesized. So it's been modified so that it's a little bit more persistent in the environment and we can work with it more easily. So there are some other pyrethrums or pyrethroids that are registered for use as adulticides, but not in an ultra low volume. So what happens is there are a couple of other products out there that are registered by the Pest Management Regulatory Agency of Canada. That's the federal body that regulates all pesticide use in Canada. But they're just not as effective.
So when it comes to what's effective, and longtime Manitobans are probably going to cringe because I'm going to talk about malathion. And there's lots of reasons we got rid of malathion. Public had very distinct points of view on it. But for those that don't understand that, can you tell us more about mosquito fogging with malathion and why Winnipeg and other places moved away from it?
So what we look at when we look at pesticides, we call it the mode of action. How does it actually kill the target organism? And pyrethroids attack the nerve cells. It's a sodium channel inhibitor. Sorry to get technical, but it affects how nerves messages are transmitted. And malathion does the same thing. It's in a category called organophosphates, and it affects, instead of the sodium channel where the action potential is propagated in the nerve, it attacks how a signal moves from one nerve to the next nerve, and that's a chemical messaging. And so it's what's called an acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. Okay, big term. What it means is you can't pass on nerve signals between nerves. The problem with the organophosphates is once the chemical binds to that enzyme, that acetylcholinesterase, it never lets go. And that means you have to produce new material in your cells, and that takes a long time. So it's very much more persistent. It's very much more damaging, and so it's much more harmful. And so most of the organophosphates have actually been taken off the market for that very reason. It's just a more dangerous chemical.
CBC reporting in 2016, Health Canada instructed Winnipeg to stop using malathion. At that time, though, the product was old, so that was a specific story. But also this people here had concerns about its toxicity to humans. Is malathion considered, in comparison to safety around human beings and other animals beyond mosquitoes, more toxic than DeltaGuard, for example?
Absolutely, yeah. We measure these things in terms of lethal dose where 50% of the test population dies, and the test population, unfortunately, is usually rats. So the LD50 of malathion is significantly higher than it is for deltamethrin.
Where does this leave the city of Winnipeg and other municipalities then, searching for something while DeltaGuard runs out?
So then you can look abroad to other jurisdictions, i.e. other countries, and see what products are registered there. And then you can petition those companies if they want to register the product in Canada. There's a registration system in Canada. For a new product, it takes many years and millions of dollars. But for an existing product that's already registered, there's a product called the User Requested Minor Use Registration. And that means it's from the user, i.e. in this case, a municipality, and they would petition the company, is it okay if we apply to the Canadian government to have it registered?
So if Winnipeg,
it's a quicker process.
So if us in our wet and boggy, sorry to interrupt you there, but wet and boggy situation, as you said, if we could find another jurisdiction out of country that has similar conditions to us, that has a product that seems to be working, but it's not regulated in Canada, we could petition, but it'll take years.
Yeah, well, it's a quicker process than a brand new product. Brand new products usually take 10 to 15 years. Whereas the minor use program in Canada was designed specifically to have emergency responses, shorter term responses. It would likely be a restricted use. In other words, only the city of Winnipeg, if they were the petitioner, would be allowed to use it. It wouldn't be a broad spectrum or a cross-country registration. So, there are mechanisms in place, but the reason these registration regulations are there is so that there isn't a wild west, as it were, of any kind of product being sprayed. Health Canada takes it very seriously about the environmental safety and the human safety of what we do put into the marketplace or into usage patterns.
Well, in the meantime, we'll keep slapping the skeeters. Thank you, Ken Fry, for your time today.
Well, thank you very much.
That's Ken Fry, an entomologist and instructor over at Olds College in Alberta. It is 3 minutes now to 8 o'clock, and we're going to have mosquito weather because it's 17, winds are calm, but we're going to get 30% chance of showers in Winnipeg today, periods of rain tonight and into tomorrow. Our high today, this Friday, is 24 degrees. We also have that yellow rainfall warning for areas from Riding Mountain down to Verdon, 50 to 70 millimeters of rain. Right now in Winnipeg, it is 17, as I've been mentioning, and in traffic, the commute's going fine so far. Call us if not, 788-3093. Speaking of the commute, after 8 o'clock on the show, 50 kilometers per hour. That's how fast some e-scooters can go. We're going to hear from Manitoba e-bike and e-scooter users about possible regulations and what they think about some of the proposals on the table. This is part of our ongoing coverage at CBC. Also, we hear about a new documentary that gives us a snapshot inside Siloam Mission that you can check out tonight and this weekend on CBC Gem. And we'll have a talk with someone from Siloam who has seen it, about what's in it and what the benefit of sharing it is. So that's all coming up after 8 live on CBC. Right now, with local headline updates, here's Josh Crabb.
Good morning. Childcare advocates say Manitoba is not moving fast enough when it comes to adding daycare spaces. The provincial and federal governments say almost 1,100 new spaces have opened in Manitoba since 2025, but critics say daycares should be treated more like schools, opening new ones as demand for spaces grows. And changes to the 3-game Canadian Elite Basketball League Championship Series might help the Winnipeg Sea Bears achieve a record. The Sea Bears are hoping to set a ticket sales record for the 1-game winner-takes-all championship game tomorrow afternoon in Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
It is time for World Report now on 89.3 FM, so stay with us. It's 1 minute to 8 o'clock, and the national and international news is coming up.
Today on Q.
Hannah Einbinder is one of the breakout stars of the hit HBO show Hacks.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was a shoes-off situation. Well, it's shoe-dependent.
But in her new film, Hannah is leaving comedy behind to star in a bloody slasher thriller. She'll be here to talk about the new movie and the success of Hacks.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm JP Tasker. Through yoga nights, karaoke, and affordable dinners, Legion branches across the country are making a big play to welcome new members in its 100th year. How Legions are working to provide third spaces for people and also survive. That's coming up on The Current.
Good morning. I'm Natalia Goodwin. More than 100 wildfires are burning across British Columbia, forcing nearly 19,000 people from their homes. In hard-hit regions like the Okanagan, summer tourism is taking a heavy toll. As CBC's Helen Pike reports, local business owners are watching summer revenue vanish.
In the morning, smoke. The afternoon, clear blue skies. And just beyond the water and sand of Penticton Beach, fire crews still working to bring the Bald Range wildfire under control. This is the uncertainty hitting tourism in the Okanagan. Kelsey Hoy owns Tickleberries, a local ice cream shop. Her beachside locations are smoked out, and fewer customers are walking by downtown.
Obviously, it's the right thing to do, but then from the business standpoint, you are just devastated.
Summer tourism here is becoming less of a sure thing. Businesses can't depend on it to make or break their year anymore. Without permission to enter Summerland, business owners anxious to get back to parched vineyards are still on the outside looking in. Christine Coletta is the co-owner of Okanagan Crush Pad Winery.
If we can't get in and open the tasting room and get our staff back in place, we're going to miss seeing thousands of people from now until the end of October.
One step getting things moving again.
Highway 97 has opened.
Fire Information Officer Aaron Catterall echoes messaging from Drive BC. The key artery is accessible only for set hours, treated as a through route. Reduced speeds, no stopping, no exits, and even that could change at a moment's notice as the wildfire continues to burn. Helen Pike, CBC News, Penticton.
New Brunswick's provincial tree is becoming the latest victim of last summer's record-breaking drought. Across the province, balsam fir trees are turning red, drying out and dying. As CBC's Danielle McReady reports, the die-off threatens both Canada's lumber industry and Christmas tree exports.
A little bit discouraging.
Peter McKeel has all kinds of trees on his 50-acre woodlot west of Fredericton, spruce, ash, and fir. But in June, he started noticing his healthy balsam firs were turning red, and now he's lost over 100 trees that could have grown into good lumber for his sawmill.
They're still dying. There's another one down in there, and they seem to be dying from the bottom up.
The red trees come as no surprise to University of New Brunswick professor Anthony Taylor.
Balsam fir is sensitive to warm, dry conditions and will shut off photosynthesis fairly early.
He's been researching the impacts of climate change on the province's forests for years and points to similar die-offs following hot, dry summers in 1986 and 2018.
That disadvantaged many of these fir to potential other things that may also be bothering the fir, like whether it be pathogens or insects in the ecosystem.
The balsam makes up about 20% of all the trees in New Brunswick. McKeel says continued die-offs will have an impact on his revenue, but also the ecological diversity of his lot.
Well, with climate change, the fir here are doomed.
For Taylor, the red trees are a bellwether of humans' impact on a changing climate.
And we're not mitigating climate change fast enough. And so as a consequence, these are the sorts of things that we're going to continue to see.
And if the species can't adapt, it will likely disappear. Danielle McReady, CBC News, Fredericton.
In Clacton, England.
And I therefore do hereby declare that Nigel Farage is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Clacton constituency at this election. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you.
And with that, Nigel Farage won back his seat in Parliament. The by-election results were not even close. Farage won 63% of the vote. The Reform UK leader did not attend the vote count or the declaration, following a reported security threat. But his closest competitor, Count Binface, did attend.
And I thought to hear the verdict of the Clactonites was the least I could do. And why? Because I've had over 9,000 votes, guys. Does that have anything to do with why he isn't here tonight, on a night when they said they thought they'd get over 80%?
Comedian Jonathan David Harvey ran as Count Binface, a satirical character wearing a trash bin on his head. Farage originally resigned as an MP amid an investigation into alleged financial misconduct. All of the UK's other main parties boycotted the by-election, calling it a political stunt. Luigi Mangione could plead guilty to federal charges as early as today. He is accused of murdering a healthcare CEO on a Manhattan sidewalk in 2024, a crime for which he still faces state murder charges. Today's federal hearing in New York addresses the counts of stalking resulting in death. CBC's Chris Reyes joins us live from New York. Chris, what can we expect in court today?
So, Natalia, nothing is certain at this point. Several news outlets, including the New York Times and Reuters, are reporting that inside sources indicate that Mangione might plead guilty to those federal charges. The allegation is that Mangione crossed state lines, used the internet and other means with the intent to stalk and kill United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. We might also see supporters for Mangione at the courthouse, as we've seen in past appearances. So Mangione has become somewhat of a cult personality since his arrest. His supporters have celebrated this crime as an act of justice against the health insurance industry in this country. We could also hear from lawyers on both sides today over what a guilty plea charge would entail. So the death penalty was on the table when there were murder and weapons charges attached to the federal case. That's no longer on the table, but life in prison is still a possibility.
Okay, and Mangione is still facing serious state charges. So how could that case be affected?
That's right. So those charges include second-degree murder and weapons-related charges. They also carry a maximum sentence of life in prison. This could be a significant development in that case set to start next month in New York. While the federal and state charges are different, a guilty plea could give Mangione's defense an opening to argue double jeopardy. So in New York State, you can't be tried for the same offense twice. Meanwhile, Mangione is currently being detained in Brooklyn.
Thanks so much for this, Chris.
Thank you.
The CBC's Chris Reyes in New York. Vote counting has been suspended in Zambia's presidential election. The country's electoral commission says the pause follows reports of attacks on polling officials and the theft of ballots. Millions of Zambians cast their ballots in yesterday's election. President Hakainde Hichilema is seeking a second term in office. Officials say they are managing ongoing threats of violence and will review the suspension in 24 hours. Colombia's new hard-right government is facing mounting criticism over its handling of Monday's powerful earthquake. Reports indicate international aid was turned away in the crucial hours following the disaster. Rescue workers on the ground now accuse the administration of letting politics shape the humanitarian response. CBC's Karen Pauls reports.
Jeremy Locke and his aerial recovery crew working around the clock in the rubble of a Cali apartment building.
You're praying and hoping so much that you get a response that oftentimes your ears will start playing tricks on you. And
looking for survivors, but finding none.
Unfortunately, a lot of the victims were elderly or younger children.
The disaster has become an early test for President Abelardo de la Espriella, with accusations the government rejected early offers of help from international rescue organizations for ideological reasons. Craig Demelon is a search and rescue volunteer in Pereira.
There's basically nothing here. I haven't seen anyone really giving stuff besides locals.
Officials confirmed rescue teams from only 4 countries, Ecuador, El Salvador, the United States, and Israel, were initially allowed in after the 7.4 magnitude quake that killed hundreds and left many missing. Colombia's foreign minister, Omar Bula, denies politics played a role. We work with countries without any ideological or political consideration, he says, and we accept and dearly appreciate their help. About 60 members of an independent Mexican rescue team, the Aztec Moles, are now in Cali, arriving directly from Venezuela to assist. One of them saying, "I just spoke to the authorities and told them to stop being stupid, stop being colorblind, stop the stupidity of politics, and that we all work together." But it may be too late. Many communities are now turning from search and rescue to recovery. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Natalia Goodwin.
Well, hello, everyone. Heading into another summer Friday, mid-August. Thanks for joining us on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC 89.3 FM on the app or YouTube. This half hour on the show, weather, traffic, your latest headlines in a moment, and then these stories. As you might have heard in the news this week, Canadian doctors are seeing an increase in injuries and deaths across the country caused by e-scooters. Coming up, we're going to hear from a physician who is seeing that firsthand. Also, we're going to hear the opinion of some folks in Winnipeg about what they think proposed regulations should be like here. They're proposed for the fall to come into effect in Manitoba, so we'll find out about what people think. In addition, at 8:20 this morning, a new documentary captures life at Siloam Mission in Winnipeg. We're going to hear from one of the shelter's director who tells us why they decided to open the doors to cameras. First, though, Josh Crabb is in, still for Heather Wells this morning, and is here with headlines.
Good morning. Donors at the Griffles Clinic on Taylor Avenue yesterday afternoon say it was business as usual. This comes as the Spanish company says it's pausing plasma collections at all of its Canadian locations, blaming what it calls unfounded attention on paid plasma donations. 2 Southwest Manitoba communities say they've had enough of treacherous highway driving due to huge holes and missing chunks of pavement. I'll tell you what's being done to fix up Highway 41 west of Brandon in the RM of Ellis Archie. And the Winnipeg Sea Bears hope there may be a silver lining to last-minute changes to their playoff games. It's now a one-game winner-takes-all for the championship, and the Sea Bears hope to set a league record for ticket sales. Your next local CBC News is at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
It's going to be busy around downtown tomorrow afternoon. All the Sea Bears fans going down. Then you have the Bird Block Party people just on the other side of Portage, of course, heading down for those concerts, rather. So it'll be nice. I don't think, though, the weather's going to be particularly cooperative because we actually could see tomorrow in Winnipeg periods of rain. Now, they should end by the afternoon and then be cloudy. Today, though, we are going to start cloudy and then see a possibility of rain. So in Winnipeg, a 30% chance of showers this afternoon, a cloudy start, as I said, a high 24. And then for Friday morning right now, it's mostly cloudy and 17. I will mention that there's a yellow rainfall warning from Riding Mountain down to Verdon, about 50 to 70 millimeters of rain. And then in the wider area for Dauphin, Russell, Winnipeg, Osis, we're looking at a special weather statement that could be 20 to 50 millimeters of rain. It's already raining right now in Brandon. It is 14 degrees. And Thompson is mainly sunny with a nice day ahead. And your temperature has gone up 4 degrees in the last hour to 10. Corey's in with a look at the commute.
Northbound Century, just past Ellis, there's a multi-vehicle collision blocking the northbound, that middle lane on Century, so keep left or right to get around that. Looking ahead to the weekend, there is an intersection that's going to be problematic this weekend, to say the least. There's pavement work happening at the intersection of St. Anne's and Abinogi-Mikana, and that's starting tomorrow at 6 a.m. is going to run all the way till Sunday at 6 p.m. So if you're going northbound or southbound on St. Anne's Road, you're going to be forced to turn right on Abinogi-Mikana. You're not going to be able to go straight through. If you're on Abinogi-Mikana going east or west, you it's just going to be down to one lane. You are going to be able to go through, but just one lane, and you're going to be able to turn right, but not left. So you're just going to want to avoid that intersection altogether if you can over the weekend. That's the intersection of St. Anne's Road and Abinogi-Meekina. If you have any other updates for me on what you're seeing out there, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Well, if you've been with CBC this week, we've been doing a lot of coverage about e-scooters and regulations. Doctors in this country are reporting a spike in e-scooter injuries for kids. They are warning safety regulations are not enough. Dr. Daniel Rosenfield is one of those physicians. He's a pediatric emergency doctor at Sig Kids Hospital in Toronto. He spoke to us on the show. He's chair of the Injury Prevention Committee for the Canadian Pediatric Society.
We've been seeing an increasing number of children being severely injured on these devices, both e-scooters and e-bikes, primarily e-scooters at the moment, but e-bikes are also a concern. The numbers of injuries, my suspicion is, reflect the availability of the devices on the market. And certainly at our center in Toronto, we see last 2025, we saw double the number we saw in 2024. And this year we seem to be tracking for even more than that. And there's a lack of awareness of people who are buying these devices about how dangerous they can be. These devices are exceedingly unstable, accelerate very quickly, and have very high top speeds. And so the injuries that we see are more akin to a motor vehicle crash than they are to kind of a pedal scooter or a pedal bike crash. And so the injury patterns are much more frightening and much more severe. And those are the ones that we really worry about. We're seeing the whole spectrum. So we see anything from, just bumps and bruises to fatalities. So we're publishing a paper that's going to be highlighting 10 fatalities that were captured across the country from e-scooters in 2025. What I see in the day-to-day and my colleagues in our emergency department are severe injuries, typically brain injuries from kids who aren't wearing helmets or that are hit at high speed.
So a lot of people in Manitoba have their minds on this topic, especially after a boy in Steinbach was hit by a girl riding an e-bike. Now, he will spend the last weeks of his summer nursing a broken leg. Also, this fall, we have proposed regulations coming in for rules around who can be on e-bikes and scooters in this province and some things to improve safety. CBC's Sophia Peralta-Barone last night hit the streets of Winnipeg to talk to e-bike and e-scooter users. So first, this is 16-year-old Mohammed Weeby. He got an e-scooter last month.
So this is called a Kukirin G2 basically, and it's a rear motor, so the motor's over here and the brakes are over here. There's a screen that tells you how fast you go, the battery, how much kilometers did I put on it. Yeah, that's all basically.
Okay. How fast do you usually go on that thing?
The fastest speed is 55, but 52 is the max that I went on it. Yeah.
And do you usually go that speed when you're zooming around town?
No, not really, because I can't just go 50 around here because somebody might just pop up. So yeah, I can't really go that fast here.
I'm asking because a lot of people are thinking of giving e-scooters and e-bikes rules and legislation. Do you think there needs to be any safety around that?
I mean, I don't know. It depends on the rider, to be honest. For me, I'm a safe rider. I don't really go that fast here. But yeah, just wear a helmet, I guess. If you're really trying to go fast, yeah, just wear a helmet.
And have you had any moments where you almost hit somebody or going too fast or anything like that?
Yeah, just once, maybe once or twice, yeah.
Do you think people need age restrictions on these things?
Not really. They're safe to ride, yeah.
And what's the best part of having an e-scooter?
I can just go wherever I want without just having to walk. Yeah, it feels like a car.
That was 16-year-old Mohammed Weeby talking about his new e-scooter with CBC's Sophia Peralta-Barone. Now, he talked about how he can't really go that fast around here. For those of you not watching the video, he was speaking to Sophia in a residential area's business park, the types that are built behind different developments in Winnipeg, like Waverly West, for example. Now, as you heard there, he might not feel like regulations or age restrictions are necessary, but Sophia also spoke to Diana Mendez, who disagrees. She rides an e-bike every day to drop her daughter off at preschool.
You use an e-bike. How fast do you usually go?
Usually around 15 kilometers per hour.
And have you seen people go faster than that?
Faster, they usually pass me.
How do you feel when somebody just shoots past you?
It seems dangerous. I see there's not a lot of, usually they're passing by me a lot faster and they're not wearing helmets or things like that. And I do fear for a lot of them are kids and they're going pretty fast. I did witness one really bad incident like a couple months back, and we had to call the paramedics because they both passed out pretty badly and there was a crack in the skull. So you do see that when you ride often.
Restrictions on e-bikes, what would you want to see?
I think definitely away from pedestrians or just regular bikes lanes. A lot more safety gear requirements and maybe licensing so people know a little more rules. So I think 18 and over would be that kind of what I would like to see.
So that was Sophia Peralta Barone, not that voice we heard, but Sophia was out talking to Diana Mendez, who we were hearing from there, about e-bikes and e-scooters and the need for restrictions in her view. Before that, we heard from e-scooter rider Mohammed Wabi and Dr. Daniel Rosenfield, who's a pediatric emergency doctor at Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. They're talking about rules across the country. Different provinces are handling this different ways. Our rules in Manitoba have been proposed in some amendments to the Act, but it's not yet passed into law. So we're going to see what happens this fall. And if you want to read about our ongoing stories about the topic, please go to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
My name is Kevin Mallon. We opened up an office and shop space and live and work in the West End every day. The best part about the West End is for sure the community. I get such a warm feeling driving down the streets with the trees hanging over the streets so nicely. There's kids everywhere. I help by shoveling my neighbor's walkway. They help by making delicious Indian food for me. It's a great community. Love living there.
People, places, and stories. CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM.
Man, I'm a sucker for neighborhood celebration. I love that. Let's celebrate where we live. It's going to be pretty decent today. If you live in Thompson, you've got the best forecast. Nice sunshine for you up north today. Beautiful clear skies, and you're going to be right around 22 degrees. Winnipeg is a little gloomier. It's cloudy out there, a high of 24 degrees. Right now it's 17. We have a 30% chance of showers and a lot of rain expected to the west. So we're talking Riding Mountain through Virden, 50 to 70 millimeters is going to fall, but it's so dry. I don't know what it's like around where you are. I kind of wish Winnipeg were getting a little more rain than we have today and tomorrow. My ground in my front yard, my poor big tree just has this cracked ground all around it, and can't keep up with what Mother Nature can bring. So we'll see how much rain we get. We're expecting to get a little bit of rain here in Winnipeg tomorrow in our forecast. But for example, Brandon today, you're looking 5 to 10 millimeters today and an additional 5 to 10 tonight. Well, next on the show, speaking of home, a new documentary takes a deep dive into daily life at a Winnipeg humanitarian organization. The Mission is the work of Winnipeg filmmakers Hawaka Blakey, White Cloud, and Kevin Nickel. It captures the workings of Siloam Mission. It lays bare the stories of some of the people whose lives have intersected with the decades-old Christian organization. Here's a bit of a clip from the 45-minute documentary.
I was in the midst of addiction. I ended up losing everything. Again, my own choices, but it was because of trauma from childhood all the way up to losing my mom. And when I lost her, it was just, I didn't know what to do anymore. So I numbed it. I came to Siloam Mission. It was the first place that ever did help me in my recovery journey.
I was able to get a bed secured that night, but then one of the staff workers said, they didn't know about my girlfriend, if she can get one. But then I told them, well, if she ain't going up, then I ain't going up. But then that staff worker said, well, we'll see what we can do. And then they ended up giving her a bed. So we both got up that night out of the freezing cold.
The Mission is out today. It streams free on CBC Gem. It's going to also air Saturday night, tomorrow night on CBC Manitoba at 8 o'clock. To tell us more about the film, Margot Ross has seen it. She's Director of Development at Siloam Mission. Hi.
Good morning, Marcy.
So what did you think of this? I mean, it can be quite something to open your doors like this, about your work. What did you think when you saw the doc?
I thought it was authentic. It was real. It's a snapshot in the life of folks who come to Siloam Mission.
What made that happen? How much time was spent in terms of, the crew being on the ground there?
Kevin was there a lot. And before Kevin started filming, we spent a lot of time with them talking about the purpose and why he wanted to do it. And he met with community members and frontline staff and volunteers, and as a team, we felt he had just the right intentions, and we wanted folks to see what goes on each and every day at Siloam.
Kevin Nickel, as I mentioned, one of the Winnipeg filmmakers behind this. So when you think about wanting people to see what's going on, is that because there's misconceptions about it?
Absolutely. We all have our preconceptions about what it's like to be unhoused. We saw this as an opportunity to meet firsthand some of the folks who are facing homelessness.
What do you think the misconceptions are that people have going in?
Mostly that you cross the street, you stay away, you look away, you perhaps feel pity. Here in the documentary, you'll meet folks and learn about their stories, where they came from, how they ended up at Siloam. Nobody plans to, I hope I can one day stay at Siloam Mission. How they ended up here. And by seeing a more complex individual, you'll see a person who is deserving of respect and dignity.
How do people simplify some of their ideas or misconceptions about why people are unhoused?
I think perhaps it's because you may not have ever spoken with someone who's unhoused. So if you crossed the street and smiled at an individual who appeared unhoused and asked how they were doing, they might share a little bit with you. And one of the things that you'll see in the film is with our frontline workers, they build relationships with everybody who comes in. They meet people where they're at. And once you learn somebody's story, you can empathize, you can understand, you can talk about it and listen, just listening to the stories.
Do you think that many people, because we talk so much about what is a real thing in terms of the drug crisis that we have in the city, connect that to the unhoused? And we might be guilty in the media too sometimes of sharing stories, in good faith with the facts in front of us, but maybe things can be lumped together. And I think sometimes that people have a big umbrella. Do you feel that way too?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt that the need is growing exponentially, and the needs are more complex. But if we could just distill it down to, this is another person. This could be a relative, a neighbor, a friend. I'd like to know their story and find out why they're here, and hopefully see them move on their journey to housing.
What are some of the other reasons that come up about why people do find themselves at Siloam that we might see in the doc?
Well, you'll meet an individual who just, Monica, that you saw in that clip, how intergenerational trauma, her childhood, then losing her mother, and then being introduced to fentanyl. It's the perfect storm. Mm-hmm. And then as you learn and get to know Monica, for instance, in the documentary, you'll see now where she's at. What part of the film struck you as especially powerful or really stayed with you after you watched it? Do you have a favorite moment? There is. There's a piece with a wonderful worker named Kendall. And Kendall's talking with a community member, and she's head of the work employment program. So we have lots of folks who stay at the shelter who also work at Siloam Mission and then go off to find permanent jobs. But this individual had been suspended. I think they were caught smoking in the bathroom. Anyway, Kendall is talking, has a conversation with the community member, and shares, you've just been suspended. You're not a bad person. It's just a suspension. So there's a lot of conversation about separating the actions of someone from who they are. And you'll see that throughout as you watch how relationships grow between the staff and volunteers. The other thing, too, that you'll pick up is we serve 1,500 meals a day, and it wouldn't happen without the volunteers and all of the donors that make that happen. I mean, we're now open 24 hours a day, Marcy. I can't even imagine what that shift has been like for you. How grateful is the community that you're there? Oh, absolutely. We're a place of refuge. There's no other place to go. We're the only place that's open. We're a block away from the safe consumption site, but we're in the intersections of the downtown area where folks can count on being safe when they come to our doors.
Now, Siloam has undergone a lot of change right now. So you've changed leadership, potential funding shortfalls you went through, which threatened some of the staffing levels and operating hours even. The province did step in to try to keep positions and things going status quo. How are things going now over at Siloam?
Things are going much better. We're looking forward to sharing more with the community next month. But the need grew exponentially. We took on more programming, and we just had to make a hard stop, get back to basics. We're still doing all of the work that we had been doing, but there's no doubt the negative press has made a huge difference. But we're turning it around, and we look forward to sharing that with you.
Okay, so I know I'm not going to ask you more about it now because I know you're not going to say it now, but mid-September, maybe we'll hear some more about your plans?
Absolutely, mid-September.
Okay. Meantime, people can watch the documentary since you opened your doors to the cruise. I haven't seen it yet. I've only seen clips and pieces, so I'm looking forward to it myself. Margot, thank you for coming in.
You're most welcome, Marcy. Thank you.
Margot Ross is Director of Development at Siloam Mission. The new documentary is called simply The Mission, and you can stream it right now on CBC Gem. It will air, though, tomorrow night if you'd rather settle into the couch and have a watch on CBC Manitoba tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We're coming up to news time right now at 8:30 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app and YouTube. We'll have our last look at weather traffic to round out your Friday show right after your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Josh Crabb in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it's 17 and raining lightly downtown, raining and 14 in Brandon, mainly sunny and 10 in Thompson. A company that pays people for their plasma is suspending donations in Winnipeg and across the country. Grifols says it's pausing activities in light of what it calls unfounded attention focused on paid plasma. This after 2 people died within the past year in Winnipeg after donating plasma at clinics run by Grifols. Health Canada has said neither was linked to the donation process, but it has also documented issues with some of the company's procedures. Noah Schulz is the director of the Manitoba Health Coalition.
It's not just media attention with no evidence, no basis. You're all not making these things up. The Health Canada inspection reports are there. We know that there are serious problems at Grifols.
Schulz says he's encouraged by the news Grifols is temporarily suspending plasma collection, but he would prefer to see for-profit plasma companies banned altogether. A statement from the Office of the Federal Minister of Health says it will work with Canadian Blood Services and others to make sure blood and plasma needs are met. Donors at the Grifols Clinic on Taylor Avenue, meantime, yesterday afternoon said it was business as usual. People leaving told CBC there was no indication donations were about to be suspended. Matthew McMillan says he's been visiting twice a week for more than a year. Despite what he's heard in the news in recent months, he hasn't had safety concerns since he started going to Grifols. He says the money helps with expenses, but it won't be a big hardship if he has to go without it.
It would kind of hurt. I mean, you get used to that $400, $500, but I'll adjust if need be.
Grifols says during the pause, it'll be working with the government and Canadian Blood Services in the hopes of resuming operations as soon as it's practicable. Childcare advocates say Manitoba is not moving fast enough when it comes to adding daycare spaces. The provincial and federal governments say almost 1,100 new spaces have opened in Manitoba since 2025. Both levels of government have given capital funding to build new centres and expand existing ones. Molly McCracken chairs the Childcare Coalition of Manitoba.
We really need to keep the pedal to the metal in terms of childcare space creation. And one of the main barriers to that is that Manitoba has this passive application-based approach whereby centres have to put together a capital expansion plan. They have to fundraise 40% of the capital cost of building childcare. We don't ask families to fundraise to build schools.
McCracken says the province should use a model similar to what it does with schools, identifying areas that need childcare and proactively taking steps to create more spaces there. 2 southwest Manitoba communities say they've had enough of treacherous highway driving due to huge holes and missing chunks of pavement. Highway 41 is west of Brandon in the RM of Ellis Archie. It connects McCauley, St. Lazare, and Binscarth. Maintenance crews have been doing patchwork repairs, but Reeve Barry Lowe says he wants the province to fix it once and for all.
They need to patch sections of it or something as they go. So put it over a 5-year plan or something and do 10 miles or 5 miles a year or something. That would be ideal. It's terribly dangerous.
Transportation Minister Lisa Naylor says highway maintenance crews are fixing unsafe areas and doing regular repairs along the roadway. And the cancellation of a 3-game Canadian Elite Basketball League Championship Series might help the Winnipeg Sea Bears achieve a record. Earlier this week, the first game of the series was cancelled because of condensation on the court of the Brampton Honey Badgers. The decision was made to return to the league's old format of one game and done, with its final game Saturday at Canada Life Centre here in Winnipeg. Rianne Marcoux is the president of the Sea Bears. She says people who had tickets to Sunday's Game 3 got refunds. The Upper Bowl is now open for tomorrow afternoon's championship game, and Marcoux hopes they can sell a record 12,000 tickets.
So we are closing in on 9,500 here, so we're hoping to hopefully break the CBL attendance record. If we can crack 12, we'll see what we get.
Meantime, the Sea Bears president is grateful to the Winnipeg Police for how seriously they took an assault against the team's star player, Teddy Allen. Earlier this month, he was hospitalized after he was injured in an assault at a downtown nightclub. Yesterday, Winnipeg Police announced 3 security guards were arrested and are facing assault charges. Rianne Marcoux says they are happy with the investigation and are focusing on Allen's recovery. Meantime, the game tomorrow is at 2:30 afternoon. That's when tip-off is at Canada Life Centre. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 9 o'clock.
All right. Thanks a lot, Josh.
You're welcome.
Josh Crabb from our news center made it through the early morning week, filling in for Heather Wells here. So thanks to Josh. Also, thanks to Aaron Broman and others that have been out there for the week, including Megan Ketchison, who's been Chase producing. Thanks to our Studio 15 crew this week, Abby Adeyemi, as well as Jenica Sewell and Corey Funk and Darren Mirage. Woohoo! Friday, guys. Off we go into the weekend. And a big thanks to our associate producers as well. We'll do some more thank yous as we wrap here. But right now, I just want to mention one last look at weather. Remember, today, mostly cloudy. Bring an umbrella, whether you're going to the Bomber game, the Bird Block party, the Sea Bears thing, or you're just heading out and about in Winnipeg. Could see some showers today and periods of rain after midnight. Periods of rain tomorrow, should end by the afternoon. If you're in Westman, not so much. Lots of rain, 5 to 10 millimeters in Brandon today, tonight. And through that area, Riding Mountain to Verdun, we're talking 50 to 70 millimeters. We do need the rain, but we'll see what happens and what the ground can absorb. So just keep that in mind for the weekend. If you're up north, just enjoy it. You've got nice, clear, mostly sunny skies. And in Thompson today, it's going to be 22. Corey, last word from the road?
St. Anne's Road and Abinogi-Meekina this weekend. Tomorrow starting 6 a.m. Paving's happening right at that intersection. Going to be very slow going. You'll want to avoid that intersection if you can.
All right. Otherwise, in our news center, I want to thank Cameron McLean, who's also been in this week. I want to thank our producers in our unit, who are Nellie Gonzalez. Robin Summerfield's been filling in, as well as Leif Larson, who's a senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba. And some of our associate producers that have had work on the program, reporter Jim Agapito, as well as Emily Enns, who's had work, Kaylin Monkman, also Sophia Peralta-Barone, and Chloe Friesen. So big thanks to everyone for their work on the show. Take care, be well, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be off actually doing different jobs, and so someone else is going to be here hosting the show. But make sure you tune in to Information Radio.